What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 247 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by one of the coolest dudes in video games, Greg Miller.
Yip-cha!
Yeah, you're definitely in an Ewok mood today, Greg. I appreciate that a lot. We got Andy Cortez, the #1 games journalist, joining us.
What's up, guys? How's it going, man? Got a lot of scoops about this game.
So many scoops.
So many.
Wow. Happy we have you here.
I'll let
the
you know
best
one
hair
day.
in the business, Fran Mirabella the third, FM3_ on Twitch.
Thanks, man.
Wow.
Good afternoon to y'all.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Epic creator code FM3_ as well.
Big
No,
fan
it's
of
not.
dishwasher.
It's Fran Mirabella. See, people use it and it gets messed up.
Oh.
Now they'll remember.
Now they
Yeah.
remember.
We also have GameXplain's Ash Paulsen on the shock mic over there.
Woo!
Yeah.
And
Woo!
throughout
Okay.
this show, this is a very special. We're doing the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order review today. And in one of the rare instances, Kind of Funny, pretty much everyone in the office is playing this game.
Yeah.
We're like the
Including
Jedi
Nick,
Council right now.
Including Barrett. We are like the Jedi Council. Including Kevin. It's fantastic stuff. And Ash has played a bit as well.
Yes.
So we're going to go around. We're going to give everyone's impressions, and we're going to go giving our full review. But first, let me tell you that this is the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Each and every week right here on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. We get together, talk about video games, all the things that we love about them. You can get the show early by going to patreon.com/kindoffunny. If you don't want to do that, it's cool. You can wait, watch it later on YouTube. Rooster Teeth. Podcast services around the globe. So many options for you. Shout out to our Patreon producers, Angel Gutierrez and James Hastings, for helping make this show happen. We're also sponsored by Movement, Felix Gray, and Quip, but we will get to all of that later. I want to get right into it. I want to talk Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Greg Miller,
Hi.
what are your thoughts of this game?
Biggest Star Wars fan.
Before we even start, I do like Star Wars. I'm not like, crazy about it or anything. Y'all over here are popping boners all the time. You know what I mean? I mean, all
Boners,
right.
dude.
Oh, the
Greg's kid.
Mandalorian's got a flower in it that I saw in the back Clone Wars episode. Shut up, dweebs. Before we go, what's our spoiler take on this? We haven't talked about this at the top.
think none.
No spoilers,
Yeah.
right?
So at any point, like if we do get to spoilers, we'll make it extremely clear that it'll be the back half of the show.
And I'm thinking we're
What?
not doing
have to
like
leave the room?
no
Yeah.
story spoilers. I would assume.
No. This
Okay.
is like the amount of spoilers you'd see in a review.
Okay,
on an
so like we can mention
IGN.com.
planet names.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And
Just
like,
make sure
you know, be careful if there's like
a good
there's
point.
some that are.
With Star Wars lore, it's a good point. It's pretty touchy, but I would expect like not any major spoilers.
Sure,
right?
just make
It's
sure.
like
Well, it's
there's-
also I remember Death Stranding. There was a lot of questions when we posted.
It'll be
like,
the
oh,
level of Death Stranding, I would say.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we didn't spoil anything in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
So then, what's your question?
And before we do that, I really quickly just want to go around and see how far everyone is
Oh, sure.
in the game. Ash, how far are you?
I've been like 5 hours in. I only got it like Monday night, so I'm just between work and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we got 5 hours in. Fran?
I think we established I'm 25, 30% in, played for about 10, 11 hours on Jedi Master, so, some setbacks, but fun ones.
Andy?
I beat it last night, or like at 4 in the morning. So I don't know how long it took me. Maybe like 20-ish, 20 around there. 25.
I beat it as well. 20, I think, is about accurate. Kevin, what about you?
I'm probably like 10 hours in, but I also was playing Jedi Master, and like so I think I'm a little bit.
Is that the top difficulty?
No. God,
That's
no.
the one right below.
It's
it?
right before, yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
third.
That's what I played on too. That's what I was trying to Google it at the very
Awesome.
beginning because I know I didn't go to
Real hard.
the craziest one, but the one right below it.
Yeah, there's like story, normal,
Hard,
Jedi Master,
very
which is
hard.
probably
Jedi
hard,
Knight,
and then very
Jedi
hard.
Master, and then Grandmaster.
That was
Yeah.
very
Ah, there you go. Yeah, I
And then
wasn't touching
That's it.
Grandmaster.
Nick as well is, I think, around 10 hours in.
Oh.
Okay.
So that's where and then Greg.
I'm
The lightsabers make sense.
20 hour. I beat the game in 20 hours. And
On
then
Jedi Master?
Yeah.
Wow, man.
And then, I turned it down for one fight.
Yeah, but that's normal.
I was like, all right, and this is a spoiler. The people know the characters in the game, right? All right, ninth sister. I was like, you
Yeah,
fucking
sure.
suck.
It's not really even spoiler.
Yeah, I beat the story in 20 hours, and I've probably put in an additional 15 since
Oh, there
then.
it is.
Maybe.
That makes more sense to
Yeah,
me, 'cause
maybe
there's
20
so
more.
much to
yeah,
get.
yeah.
So Greg Miller, what do you think?
What do I think of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Tim? It's a great question. I've thought about this a lot and tried to figure out where I would start, right? Because there's so much to criticize about the game. Like, from you're running and having a great time and it's beautiful, and you stop and the Cal's doing that thing where he's like a foot and a half off the ground where his feet aren't lined up with the geometry of the floor. You're like, ugh. The weird choices of having to use L2 when you jump and grab something to then really confirm you want to grab onto it. Why would you do that, right? When I have a whole bunch of other stuff in here that is just
Playing on PS4, obviously.
Playing on PS4 Pro. Thank you,
that's
Frank.
another
PC.
good point. Xbox One X.
Okay.
Xbox One X as
Yeah,
well.
I didn't have this geometry.
PlayStation 4 Pro.
The Xbox Series 2 Elite controller.
Yeah.
It means nothing for this review. That the fact that the respawns take too long when you die in combat. You die in the geometry of the level. You fall off the thing, right? Boom, right back there. Thing fucking kills you. All right, load it up. There I am. Sometimes the checkpoints are so bad, it's like, all right, cool, this boss is kicking my ass. I'm going to have to keep respawning at my meditation point and then running through this crevice, running past enemies to get to him to keep doing it, right? All that. You can talk about all that. That's where you want to start? Sure. I adore this game. This game is not perfect by a long shot. It is probably the most fun I've had playing a game in 2019. Like, I love this game in a way that I wasn't expecting, even for the joke about me being a Star Wars fan at the front, right? That I like the movies fine, but like when you guys were doing in review, I was like, I don't feel like spending 7 or 9 or whatever, like more than 9, right? Like 12 Sundays watching Star Wars, not where I want to do right now. But I love Star Wars as a concept. I love the games. I love watching everything the first time through. Like, I thought from the beginning this game was awesome. I thought it kept it going. I think dips in the middle. There's a slowdown. The one planet, Dothmir, right? Dothmir, I thought was like, okay, this is where it's like, cool. This camera was not designed to be in enclosed spaces. There's a bunch of issues here, blah, blah, blah. But it ends so fucking well. It begins so well. It ends so well. It kept me going the entire way with the story, with the combat, with the evolution of Cal, with the me getting my powers. And to get to the end and be like, this is a rare for me, I think, where I go, I want to platinum this game, and I'm not going to move on to the next thing. I'm going to keep working on it while I wait for a guide. Because this is a game of a map that takes some getting used to. But once you get used to it, I do feel like, okay, cool, I got this, and this is actually helpful. It shows you how many chests you have left, how many secrets you have left to find. I think
It's a Metroid map.
exactly. In a lot of different games, I would see that, and I'm like, oh, I want to platinum this. I'll let a guide get made and come back to it. This was very much where I love this character. I love the journey I've been on with BD1. I love my lightsaber. I love my outfit. I love what I'm doing. That I want to exist in this world longer and longer and longer, as long as I can. So I'm still right now just every night coming home when I have time, popping it on and going it. And to the point that, you know, Poe's visiting right now. I had him play it last night because he's a huge Star Wars
You
fan.
haven't signed the NDA? Or what's
No.
going on?
You
Okay.
know, he's good. Don't worry. Nobody follows him.
You called Shu.
Exactly. But like getting to watch the opening again and just watch it like a Star Wars movie, I was like, God, this is good.
I absolutely love this game.
Yeah.
Despite its many flaws.
Yeah.
Where I feel like even at its worst, though, the flaws bring it down to 8 level, not below that. Like maybe sometimes some 7s ish. But I feel like this is such a genuinely Star Wars game. It, I think, rivals Star Wars, any Star Wars story I've ever heard or seen or consumed in any media.
The story.
The characters, and that it's really about the characters. Like, to me, especially now that we are watching Star Wars in Review, that The Mandalorian's out, that the hype for Episode 9's coming. Like, we're in like just peak Star Wars right now, and it's really making me realize, like, what is it that makes Star Wars special? And I think that it always comes back to the characters and the believability of the team and the dynamics that are going on. I think that every single character introduced in this game, whether it's in the very beginning or towards the end, has purpose. The dialogue is fantastic. The reasons and the things that they're having you do, I think, are all meaningful. And every single step of the way, I feel like, is impacting this story. Doesn't need to be the Star Wars saga as a whole, but I feel like where this one fits is so smart. And I think that it's debatably my game of the year. I still need to, like, really kind of play a couple more things and like figure that out, but it is in the running right now, where up until now I'd say Resident Evil 2 Remake was my easy game of the year. I think now that it's between the two of them, and it's real close. I think right now I'd probably give the edge to this because I feel that it succeeds as a Star Wars game so hard and so well, where I was having fun, and all the little things you're talking about the lightsaber and about the droid. BD1 is one of the best droids in Star Wars. Hard stop. That's crazy. You know,
agree too.
Playing with him reminded me of seeing BB-8 in Force Awakens, where it's like, damn, how did they capture the magic of R2-D2 again, but with a different personality? And they really did
Cute
that.
bot noises.
The amount of customization options, like, it makes you feel like this is your character, and your
Really good job with that.
the lightsaber stuff. Like, I've never been able to do. Like we just did the lightsaber building thing in Disneyland, and it's like that was such a personal experience. I feel like this game mimics that.
And what are a few of those things, right? It's just for the people who don't know.
You essentially like there's a lot of stuff that's all cosmetic, but there's a bunch of different parts of the lightsaber, and you get to like you collect them as you go around the world, and you can craft and like change the color, change the blade, change the like all this stuff, and it's
change
like
your emitter, change your
handle.
switch, change your handle, change your material.
Right out of the gate.
These are that's the thing is like so many games I think make collectibles and cosmetic collectibles too. Garbo, why do I care?
Yeah.
Every chest you're opening in this game is giving you something that I did immediately want to inspect.
I want to see what it is.
Yeah,
And, like,
that's why
it's more than that too. Or there's lore elements to it, and like
Yeah.
for people that do care about the Star Wars like mythology,
Duty
like,
and resolve.
like
too.
that type of stuff is
Yeah.
just it's cool, and it's like it makes it feel so much more real than just collecting a bunch of shit for no reason. Some of the bugs though, of which there are many, I got caught 4 or 5 times in situations where I had to hard reset the console.
Really?
And it was always things where it's not that the game broke or anything, or
You got
game
stuck
bugged.
in a spot?
The game is not well designed for a lot of its puzzles and for exploration. I think that there's one way that they want
took
you
a
to do
one-way
things,
street. Yeah.
and it's so open that I feel like sometimes the signposting can be so poor that you don't know what the critical path is. So you'll end up going down a different path because it's there, and you're not ready to explore that yet. But it's hard to know. In Metroid, it's like, oh, that's a red door. I don't have those missiles yet. You know what I mean? Like I know I'm going to need to get that, but there's no way to get through it right now. Like I'm going to have to get the missile at some point. With this, I feel like there's things where it's like, oh, I feel like I might be able to figure this out. And I'm supposed to have my droid go over and open that door so I can go through here and then call him back. No, you're not supposed to do that, because if you do, you get locked in a hallway that you just can't get out of.
Yeah, that's what the example I was looking for, because like it is like Metroid inspired, where you're intended to go down a hallway and find a red thing that you're like, I can't do this. That's the magic of what they've brought to the table with this game and referencing all these games of the past. But I haven't run into this yet, where you make a choice and you get stuck. That's a huge problem.
Then that wasn't the only time. There was a time where there's an elevator, like a story beat elevator. And and like you plug it in to turn the elevator on, and I walked and I activated the elevator and it started going up, and then the camera, like I just moved a little bit and I fell off the elevator, saw the elevator go up, and I'm like, huh.
You just
Great. Unplugged it, plugged it back in, elevator's still up there. It's not respawning.
And you can't go back to a
there's
previous checkpoint.
There's nowhere you can just go to like, respawn the situation. And I was just like,
So you had to go all the way around
I had
the
to restart the
world, or-
game.
You had to restart the whole game?
There's 4 different points to this game that I had to restart because I got stuck in a hallway.
The
I got
entire
stuck.
game you had to restart.
No,
Entire
like
game.
That's
like reload.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry. You had to restart the instance.
Yeah. No, it's not like.
To be fair, you did
bugs.
say you had to restart the game.
Yeah, sorry.
You meant
yeah.
that save.
Reset it. Or
Yeah.
So you couldn't just like die, and that's exactly it.
Well, there was when I got caught in the hallway, or even there was nowhere to die.
Right. But even
There
if
was
you
no
could,
enemies.
sometimes it still puts you in the spot you're stuck on. I ran into that where I went one way to find a collectible on these like ropes you swing on or whatever. I was like, cool. And then I get over there and I'm like trying to swing back, and it was very unintuitive of how to get back. And then I was just like, I couldn't figure it out for the longest time, and it wasn't really a puzzle. It was just awkward. And I almost got to that where I'm like, I'm stuck. Like, I don't even know how to get out of here. I almost ran out of my life, getting out of there. So it certainly has stuff.
So
like
so that stuff's very interesting that it's there, and I feel like the game really works in its combat and really works in a lot of its traversal. But then there's a ton of traversal elements that I just feel like it falls flat. Anytime that you're sliding, it never feels good. You never feel like you're in control of the character, and it happens throughout this entire game.
When you come around giant banking corners, I'm like,
You're gonna fly off.
You're always
You're gonna
good.
fly off. Anytime that you're swinging on ropes or whatever, you don't know where the hell you're gonna jump off the rope. Like even though I'm looking where I need to go. Why does he jump this way? It's like the wall running. It's like it auto locks so often, but then sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah,
It's things like, and what you're talking about, having to hold L2 when you jump to climb. It's just like
and not even hold it, tap it.
Yeah.
You go, he grabs whatever grade he wants to, and then he
tap it
hangs
again.
off one, and you have to tap LT. I'm like, you grabbed it.
You didn't have to hold it the whole time?
No.
I hate that.
I didn't understand.
Worst. Speaking of your point earlier, Tim, one little detail I do like is I agree that the signposting isn't great, but I have noticed that when you go down an optional path for a collectible, the droid will say something to Cal, and he'll be like, oh, I want to go explore over here, thereby kind of giving you, the player, an idea that this is not story, where you're not supposed to go. So I did at least appreciate that. But I agree. In general, the signposting is pretty cool.
There's a bit of that contextual sort of
wish there was
back
more
and
of
forth.
it.
I agree, but there was a moment where I was having to backtrack, and good lord, I fucking was so annoyed in this moment of backtracking. And then I get called by Seer, who is back on the ship, and she's like, "Hey, you gonna get back to the mission?" And I opened up my map. I was like, "Fuck, I'm so far off where I was supposed to go," because I just. It was like ultimate frustration. But keep going, Tim, because this is you right now. I just realized you haven't finished your fault.
No. I mean, I'm pretty much there. It's like, for as negative as that all sounds, the combat is so fantastic. And, you know, a lot of people compare this to Souls games. I've never really played Souls games, and I get it from what I've seen. And
Very
this seems
Sekiro.
like, yeah, and I enjoy it a lot. But fuck, this game kicks my ass. Like it's very difficult. I do very much appreciate that you can change the difficulty at any time, and it's like literally mid-fight, you can change difficulty.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I
Yeah,
figured it
it's-
would like take you back to the meditate.
No, it's real cool, and I like that. And I don't think I've ever used that functionality this much. Where I tried playing on Jedi Master, which is hard for the majority of it. I feel like majority of the game I did.
Yeah, I think it's the right spot.
But there were a ton of times where I dropped to medium. There were a ton of times I dropped to easy, the story mode, where I'm just like, I'm getting my ass kicked, and it's been 45 minutes of me fighting this boss, and I just can't wrap my head around it. And it's not even
That
just
is
the
Dark
bosses.
Souls and Sekiro.
Yeah,
And
but
it
it's
was
like,
that thing of
perfect.
like when it was happening to me, where it would be 45 minutes of me going over and over and fucking cursing and screaming, and like it would. And I remember distinctly at breakfast one day, Jen's like, "So what do you think of the game?" I'm like, "I love it." And she's like, "You scream at it a lot." And I'm like, "I know, but it's like it is that Souls part of it, where it is like
You know what you should be doing.
Exactly. It's not that I'm frustrated because the boss is, in my opinion, cheap or doing something stupid. It's me fucking it up. And
Exactly.
so when I finally get it, and the amount of times I would win these battles with one sliver of health, and it would be that thing of like heart in my chest, holding the saber, and then we turn it off, and like that. I was like, oh my
yeah.
god, does this
it.
You
feel
feel good. I feel like
That's the Dark
throughout the
Souls
game,
part.
there are anytime you're fighting bigger enemies, it doesn't feel as good as when you're fighting somebody that is like
Sure, you want to be able to parry and go with
yeah,
them.
it's like the big spiders or
big
like
toads.
anything big, the big toads. Like early on,
hate
there's
the
an
toads.
optional toad
Yeah.
like boss fight that kicks your ass.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
to a
Kick my
point,
ass.
to a point
Yeah.
where it's like,
It's everybody. That,
this
it's
is one
fair
damn
to go back
toad.
to not fight in the beginning.
But the thing is, you want to push through.
I
and you want to
persisted.
keep going. I persisted, and I eventually beat
Sometimes
it.
you cheese him, just hit him from the doorway. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
but it's like that fight in particular.
true Jedi.
Is such a spike in difficulty that I feel is just way too early. That it doesn't give me the sense of like, oh, I'll come back to this. It gives me the sense of like, this is poorly designed. Where it should.
Oh man, I got the total. I come back to it. That's my
you
thing.
were supposed to come back to that.
My
I know
thing
exactly
with
what you're
it in
talking
general, and I know talking to everybody, they have different takes on the combat and how it is, and like how you unlock powers. But going through the ride of Cal and the journey of being him in this game, it's frustrating in the beginning of there are these enemies that I can't fight or I'm not powerful enough and I'm going to keep moving. And it's rare I feel that I play a game where by the time I actually go through and I feel underpowered and then I'm slowly getting more powers and I'm getting stronger and I'm getting stronger. And there's a definitive moment, which I will not spoil, where it's like, no, I fucking got this. I am a Jedi, right? And I come out and start fucking going at everything. And it's like the game, like, this is, stick with me. This is something that's already been spoiled by a trailer today during
Stig
XO
with me.
19. Very good, very good. So
Stig.
this is something that got spoiled already, but if you're blackout,
see
maybe you don't want to know it, right? Sorry, Frank. Or do you want? I want to know it or whatever.
You're making it sound like it's going to be a bummer.
I'll stop.
to hear.
What I'm going to say is there's a moment you probably saw in the XO19 thing that's where, like, that would have been a cool moment to have, right? When that happened in the game, I was like, fuck, they didn't earn this. It's very much you're at a crafting bench and then it just happens. And it was
Yeah.
like, oh, what a lame reveal. I thought that would be like, oh, that's going to be the tenor of the reveals in this game. It wasn't. The stuff you don't know and the stuff that happens later, and when I am a Jedi and you go, like,
It's fantastic.
the game fucking builds to a point where I think if you're early on in or you're playing at different times, you can be like, this sucks. I'm underpowered. I'm getting pushed around. Blah, blah, blah. But like even getting pushed around in battle, it is like it's the weirdest thing of role playing as him and role playing as a Jedi, and the game being not the Force Unleashed, where it's like literally like, no, think through these fights. You're fucking it up. Dodge, weave, do this. You know what I mean? Wait for them to make the mistake. But the amount of these fights when I would get cheaply hit, I'd fuck up and they'd hit me, and I'd be like, fucking God, and I'm slamming the saber into them, like yelling, and I'm like, man, it's the dark side. I'm being Kylo Ren
no,
right now. I'm just
seriously,
fucking slashing the station.
They make you feel that role playing is a really good way to put it. Like that's so accurate. Something that's really cool, Greg. I was talking to Barrett a lot about this. The moment that we're not spoiling here. Me and him had at totally different planets, totally different points of the game. Yeah. And I think that it's cool where like the more that I'm talking to people here, I'm like, things are happening in different places, and like it's pretty cool based on like how you play the game.
Yeah, really quick, I just want to jump in. Like, the thing that we're not going to spoil, that moment that I got to it, I feel like they absolutely did earn because of the way that I got it.
Oh.
The way that Tim described how he got
Was
it
how you
was
just
probably
described
how you got it.
Yeah.
And the way I learned it through that, I was like, oh, yeah, that's
Mine, I
really a
stopped
weird
at a
way.
workbench, yeah, tweak it, and then boop.
No, the way I found it was just like, holy shit, this is really cool how they're presenting it. So yeah, I think it's weird that there's several ways to get to that moment, which I don't know if it's a benefit or a detriment to the game, but
It's like getting an alternate ending in a game, and you're like, oh, well, that was like, it's cool
I
that
got the
they have
bad
this,
one.
but that's like shitty and not well done. So I beat it last night. I like the game. I don't love it. I think that it there's a lot of moments in combat that are frustrating, not difficulty wise, but I feel like this game has some pretty big problems with a lot of the enemy AI. There's a lot of moments where some AI is just standing there looking at me, and that could just go towards the bugs. That could just go towards some broken issues with the game.
Yeah, I had them crap out a few times. Not often, but a couple times they just didn't even do anything.
Yeah, it happened to me about at
Not
least
often,
5 or
hardly.
more times where some spawns are just kind of looking at me. I do feel like the combat through the majority of the game, I played on Night for about 30% of it, and then I dropped down to the normal difficulty or whatever. But I feel like a majority of the game's combat, based on the path that I took, sets you up for more of a hack and slash experience, and doesn't really necessarily reward. You don't feel like you necessarily need to be parrying a lot of these attacks, at least from what I felt.
I can't imagine that.
And until the final fights, couple fights down the line, that felt, this is how the game wanted you to play, and that just wasn't super obvious to me. It felt like like we were playing different video games for me. Like the final fights and the majority of the rest of the game. I thought the game started off incredibly strong. A lot of the middle just kind of took a dip for me to where I thought, man, I don't really know if I am really digging this game. And I thought it ended incredibly strongly. I don't see this being a game of the year for me. Maybe since it's a bit of a weaker year, we don't have like kind of these giant big exclusives that we're kind of used to. I thought it ended incredibly. There's that moment towards the end where you're like, fuck yeah, man. Now I'm Cal. I'm Cal, and I'm really, really digging sort of this, this back and forth between you and your shipmates or whatever. Yeah,
Greasy.
they do a couple
Easy money, baby.
They do a couple things with the shipmates that feels like a half-assed version of what Mass Effect did with shipmates.
Sure.
Like very, very half-assed.
Yeah.
Maybe like a quarter-assed.
Some dialogue and stuff.
Yeah. And I felt like that was kind of not fully formed.
Yeah, there's not much dialogue choice stuff, right? It comes up. Do we know if it has any impact whatsoever?
I don't think it has any effect.
I think so.
It's just sort of your whatever you want to
Again,
hear.
fill in the coloring book
Yeah,
page.
it was like Anthem did the same thing, where it's like you can get a response, it'll be different, but it doesn't affect anything.
Yeah.
It's just how they talk to you.
Well,
Yeah.
And speaking to this point, that's actually one of the things I didn't like about the game early on. Is now again I've only gotten several hours in, but all of Cal's shipmates are great. Cal himself bores me so much. He is the most vanilla, most bland. Now again, only several hours in. It sounds like from what your guys saying, it gets better. He gets better.
And that's
So-
I think the greatest compliment to the story of this game is I entirely agree with you. Where Cal is just like, I feel like almost set up to just be like a lame ass dude. And
Yeah.
as you go through, there's so many story beats of growth for him
Okay.
that feel backed up by gameplay that by the time it's not even just the end. Like I feel like there are multiple relationships that happen with him and every single member of the crew and just people you meet where it's just like, oh, I believe in him being a better person, being
Nice.
a Jedi now. And it's just like, I feel like it's a story that we haven't seen before in Star Wars without spoiling stuff, that he goes down of like where he starts and where he ends is not the traditional kind of Jedi tale.
Yeah, and that's another comment to it. I agree with you that and I totally understand where you're coming from, right? Because I think that's part of Cal. When you meet him in the game and start playing as him, he is somebody who has not cut himself off from the Force, but he's had to not be himself. He's had to be in this
Yeah.
box. And I think getting BD and the conversations they have, and even when the contextual ones start happening, right? There's many important ones, but a specific, you start going through this thing and you're talking to BD and BD's talking to you, and you don't understand BD obviously, but Cal's voice changes and these things go on, and it's like awesome. And the way they do his backstory and all these different things, I do feel for him, and I do understand why he's the way he is, and I am excited for where he gets to.
I do want to call it the Uncharted effect, though, where when you're playing a third-person game and you're running around and you're jumping, you're climbing stuff, I want creative, funny, witty stuff, and there's really none of that for me.
I wouldn't say there's none. There's definitely not
Very
enough.
little.
Again, watching Poe play the opening, there's a couple in the opening where it's like, oh, that was close.
Yeah,
Crap. And he doesn't.
No,
he does
it's not
a
even-
very much Drake like. I forget what he says. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, oh man, they're gonna do more of that. And eventually that does taper off, especially when you're just exploring.
Yeah.
When you're out there, like,
it's just quiet.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's much different.
But if we're talking about sound here, the fucking soundtrack.
Oh my god, the
Are you
soundtrack,
fucking kidding
the
me?
soundtrack
Phenomenal.
is so good, and I feel like right off the bat, there's a song choice that they have that I thought was so inspired and so different. And again, I feel like
In the
is,
opening cinematic?
yeah,
Yeah.
so like right when you start the game, like something happens where I'm just like,
This isn't
this
normal
is
Star
so
Wars.
uniquely Star Wars. This is what is going to make this game stand out in the canon of Star Wars. Where I'm like, this is different. It's like it's similar to. You can't imagine a cantina without the cantina theme.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
was like, oh, if there's cantina music, there's probably other types of music that are Star Wars as well. And I love it. I bought it so hard, and I feel like the way that they use musical elements in this game is
the sound
very
cues
smart.
are very on point with the series as well. Like,
Fran,
thing-
what do you think? You haven't chimed in. What do you
no,
think?
yeah, I
of
mean,
it?
everybody's got to get through their side of it. I'm gonna back up again to like what is the game for me. And it's funny to hear because I think I agree with most of what everybody said. I haven't encountered nearly as many like of these bug issues, and there's definitely like little geometry issues and things like that. But like so far, it's just sort of a little stiff at times, or like the camera doesn't do exactly what you'd want to do. It's funny because the game looks so polished, but it lacks the ultimate polish on all these elements that it uses and all this inspiration. And that's where I'd bring it back to, is that it's like fascinating to me. Is when I look at the game, I'm like, holy cow, the team literally, and I'm trying to choose my words carefully, was strongly inspired from so many games of the past, and they try to bring all these things together into one game that you'll hopefully love in the Star Wars universe. When I go to play it, literally the game does this. It opens up with an Uncharted E3 demo. And you do that, and then it teaches you the basics of Sekiro combat, which of course was born out of Souls. So after you learn the basics of that and how that skill tree works, you move on to learn your Metroid Prime map, which was of course inspired from all the classic 2D maps. And the world is basically a mashup of Tomb Raider and Metroid Prime that you sort of explore with that dose of
War.
Sekiro, and sure, God of War now, the new one, but almost more, I'd say, on the other side, because it's not as open. You know, it's very pathed. You know, not that God of War's not. I just mean that God of War feels more connected throughout. I don't know what it was about the planets, but it's very, like you said, like in God of War, you don't get on like a slide that you awkwardly jump off of and have to do it over again.
Boy.
It's very much the roller coaster ride that that's the Uncharted
Yeah,
effect.
I mean, I think the God of War stuff for me really hits with the planets and the realms.
Yeah, and actually that is true. So you're right, God of War, that is, so literally go through the list. You know, Uncharted, Sekiro, Souls Combat, Metroid Prime, Tomb Raider. Then they bring in Breath of the Wild physics puzzles that they learned from a little bit at times. And they bring all this together. There's God of War, and it's really awesome for those reasons. It took a little while for me to warm up to that, though. I was like, I honestly didn't want that like Uncharted E3 demo, and I appreciated it in the beginning, but I'm like, what's the gameplay? You know, and when you hop in, you definitely start to realize that you got to be a fan of action. Sword combat, you know, the saber combat. And so hopefully if you like Sekiro, you don't have to make it that hard, but hopefully you like those basic mechanics, because a lot of the action that I've seen, it's like 100% like getting into fights in Sekiro. Even with the big enemies, you get the same exact effect. But again, same thing, doesn't have the ultimate polish that team is able to bring to that combat. It's good, and it's darn good, but it's still not
Like a jack of all trades kind
It's
of
just
master.
not-
So
yeah.
I forgot to say this earlier, but like my succinct review of this game is Jack of all trades, master of Star Wars. Like it
Yeah.
really nailed
Master of Jedi.
the Star Wars.
call IG and
elements
get
of
that
it.
as the strap line.
Let's put it on.
That's good.
I'm gonna tweet that at Embargo. But Yeah, it's like, to me, it is definitely a jack of all trades, and it does all the things very well, but not as good as any
Right.
of those
But-
things, but not bad.
Right, and exactly that's it. That is okay for me. I really like this game. It is growing on me more and more because, again, it does so many things so well, even if not perfectly, and it brings all of these favorite pieces of games together, and I'm like, wow, this is so, yeah, at times I'm like, wow, this is so Metroid Prime. This is so Breath of the Wild. This is so Tomb Raider, and like in these moments, I'm like, it's great. And so it's weird to say, but I've kept in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is going to sound stupid to some people. It's a gamer's game, and it's old school, and it's new school. And what I mean by that is there's nothing wholly original and brand new about this game in any way, shape, or form. But it brings together all these favorite things, whether from your favorite 2D games or favorite 3D games, I feel like. And it's got some of that old school design philosophy, like you're saying.
Yeah.
You literally do, you go down a path and you're going to die. Even Uncharted does this at times. And it's like, well, we couldn't really find a good way to avoid that, so you're just going to die a lot until you avoid that curve next time or whatever it is. And
I'll say what it does do new though is I think us having a really good Star Wars game. We've had
We haven't had
1313
that in a while,
canceled.
man.
We had
We haven't had
we
this
had
in a
Amy
while.
Hennig's game canceled. I was extremely disappointed with the campaign in Battlefront 2, and I think an hour into this, I'm like, God, they did it.
They did it.
We got a game that I could absolutely recommend to any video game player or Star Wars fan. Like,
Yeah.
it's well done, and there was a lot of care put into it. And going back to the whole crafting your lightsaber, I saw this up on your screen when you were playing it. I guess the first day we got the codes. And that's when, and that's kind of when I got the first hint of, they didn't have to do this.
No.
Like we could have, they didn't have to be a whole lot of, there couldn't have been a whole lot of a customization put into this game, and they could have put all the care into the story and stuff. But they gave us these little extra things that I think matter a lot
That
to
make it yours.
to
That's
your,
the
yeah.
thing,
This
that
is my Cal.
It is so personal, and I think, and this is hard to do without spoiling stuff, but it's as the story progresses, obviously. The lightsaber customization is such a big part of it. And the entire time, I was like, I'll do this, and I'll do that, and I'll do this, and I want to try this. I want to unlock more colors, and blah, blah, and I'm changing it left and right and left and right. And there comes a story moment in there, right, that's tied into his backstory and everything else in your lightsaber, where it was like, this, like, all of a sudden, it went from being like, I'm fucking around being a toy to being like, oh, shit. And like I made my lightsaber and stopped. That's my lightsaber from that moment on, right? Where I twisted it around and did what I wanted, because like there's now, for me, playing a narrative adventure, suddenly there's a story to my saber.
Yeah.
Which sounds weird to say.
No,
And they didn't force it on me. I have a story to my saber.
Yeah. No, what I love about that, and going back to what you were saying about like it doesn't do anything like absolutely new, I think this is the new thing that I've never experienced in a game, where there are choices that you end up making and you care so much about these random things that honestly don't matter. They don't affect gameplay. It's all just for looks. And there's a story beat where a thing happens and the decision you make does not matter, because immediately after the cinematic, you can go into the menu
Right.
and
Do whatever.
change your option to whatever you want it to
Yeah.
be. It doesn't matter. But they make that moment matter.
Yeah.
I the choice that I had to make there, I was like, I knew that I was going to be able to change it, and I still was like, I need to make the right choice.
I didn't. I made sure to save. and then I chose. And I was like, close application, restart. Like,
Yeah,
wanted to
dude,
make-
I love it
to
though.
think it through.
This game accomplished that though.
That's
this
awesome.
game accomplished that made you feel like this is so authentically Star Wars that I care about this character and his lightsaber.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to watching this discussion is fascinating for me, because I'm again like 6 hours in or so, and I was kind of feeling kind of lukewarm on it. Like, exactly what you guys are saying. This feels like an amalgamation of different games.
Yeah.
Like, Uncharted, Metroid Prime. It's like I just feel like it doesn't have its own identity. But again, that seems to be the early game. So
And I know that that's always such a cop-out, right? Where you got to keep playing further. You got to do this thing. I don't think at any point it's bad. But for sure on Dothmere was where I was like, all right, like I'm fighting these guys around blind corners. They're fucking with me. The camera's winging to the wall. I can't see. Ugh.
and, and some elements got a little too Destiny. Like some of the enemies got a little too Destiny for me.
What do you mean?
Where I thought, like, this doesn't feel like Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
Dothmere.
Oh,
I
sorry.
I did
did.
veer off a little bit at times.
What?
So I was just saying, you thought some of the characters veered off from
Yeah.
feeling like a Star Wars game.
Yeah.
I think to
I haven't
put this
run
in a
into
way
that
that
yet.
it's like not spoilery at all, because we've seen this in the first demo they showed, but it's like, I'm fighting bugs, and it's like, no,
Yeah.
that's not Star Wars. But then it's like, when you think about it, it's like
It is.
Star Wars could be
Yeah.
anything, you know?
It is.
Yeah. No, but I'm just talking later on. There are some
Exactly.
enemies that are introduced
I'm-
where I
I'm
thought,
with
like,
you.
This feels
Well,
like
maybe
a
it's more
different-
Metroid even,
feels
right?
like a different
than
world.
Destiny.
I thought the game did a great job with its. I never felt I guess I always felt compelled to keep exploring.
And that's my
when
thing,
I saw an extra path, I immediately thought like I could keep going the story route, but that way there's probably going to be another suit that I could wear. There's probably going to be another
different emitter
which,
from
by the
my
way, I only
lightsaber.
ever unlocked 2 suits. Kind of
Dude,
disappointing.
yeah, the suit game,
Suit?
real bad.
Ponchos and stuff?
No, underneath the ponchos.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because
that's
I never wore the
thing.
poncho.
Me neither.
As soon as you got to take off the poncho, I was like, I took off the poncho and I started
Totally.
rocking the other thing. And there's
Yeah.
only 4 of those you can unlock that are just like normal outfits that the ponchos go over. And the problem, here's my thing. Ponchos look hideous, I think, when on the customization screen. Once you're playing and you put them on, it's like, all right. Because I held off for hours. I held off for like 15 hours. And I was like bitching about it to Lucy one night before she went to bed. And the next morning she came out and I was all blurry-eyed playing. I'm like, I broke down and put on a
Put the
poncho.
It's weird though, but why is there only one option that's not poncho? There's one jacket option, and then there's
Right.
like 19
So
ponchos.
that's it? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
There's not a lot
You're
of,
just
like-
reskinning the non-poncho outfit.
I only ever unlocked one of them though. That's my problem with it. Like I unlocked hella ponchos. I unlocked the ship that you fly in. Your squad mates.
Mantis.
You know,
Right.
there's different color
The
options
colors
for that.
for that, yeah.
There's different colors
Yeah.
for BD1, which
Yeah.
is really cool.
Awesome.
And I always like, you know.
Yeah, I'm matching them with the
Yep.
poncho or
Yeah,
the right.
or
totally,
if there's too
totally.
much red on this, do I make BD blue?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love all sorts
It's
of shit
cool.
like that.
So Ash, I want to let you go for a little bit. Like,
All right.
what are your thoughts on the game 6 hours in?
Like I said, I was feeling kind of lukewarm on it, and hearing you guys talk about how much better it gets later, and I want to make it clear, I don't think it's bad.
And that's my
haven't-
thing. Sorry,
Yeah.
just to interrupt where I was going originally. Is it's never bad.
No.
It's just like playing it. It does feel like, all right, cool. It's a Star Wars game at a certain point. Sorry.
Yeah, it just feels, at least to start, sometimes like a bog standard 3D action game with combo-based combat and Uncharted climbing, as we've all said. But I'm still having a good time. Like I'm not, I may be lukewarm on it at 5-6 hours in, but I'm not disliking it. And I certainly, like hearing you guys say all this, I actually want to go right home and play more because it sounds really exciting. And yeah, now I will say I'm also a casual Star Wars fan. I like it, but I'm not going to notice every single reference. And so I'm sure that, there are little nods and references that are lost on me that would be, for a Star Wars fan, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. So that stuff is lost on me. I'm still a little down on Cal, but I totally believe what you're all saying. So I think that where I'm at in the game, I'm not necessarily, I can't really give a overarching, fully informed, verdict. But it does seem to be the kind of thing where you need to get over that initial slight hump to get to the really good stuff.
It's
And
an
that's where I'm
investment.
at right now.
Yeah.
Early on, I'd say Cal reminds me a lot of when I played Horizon Zero Dawn, where I thought Ayla was pretty boring as well.
Until
Like
she
she
got
just
a little-
was, she
yeah.
wasn't like a super fun character.
Right.
It was more of the interactions you're making with other people that were kind of entertaining. But yeah, I kind of agree with you there. I do think Cal does get better, but I don't think he like jumps off the screen and to
Right.
become like this super compelling character.
But what's great is that he's
His arc is
surrounded.
cool, though.
Yeah, well, and he's surrounded by all these characters who do stand out, and that's what's cool. It's
Yeah.
that's like BD1 is maybe my favorite droid so far, like in movies and the whole he's a cool little droid.
Yeah.
And the characters in the ship that you meet, and he's surrounded by people who help make him more interesting.
Yeah.
But I am incredibly excited to hear what you guys said about, or see what you guys said about, not only the story arc backing up what happens to him, but working in a gameplay context. I love stuff like that. So, yeah, so far it feels like an amalgamation of a bunch of different games I've played.
It's an amalgamation of some of the best games of all time.
But that's
Yeah.
also
so
true.
like
Yeah.
that's
That's
the
what's
key.
so
And-
interesting about it.
Yeah.
Hey, Kev,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
So for the first 6 hours or so, I was really down on the game, where like all the bugs like felt like
real bugs or
Yeah, Star Wars bugs
Yeah,
are
so-
like
no, actually game bugs.
Code
where
bugs,
it's like
okay.
the jumping around, landing, and you not being quite on the floor, or you jumping off something and trying to grab a rope, and it just having to do that like 10 times because I
The depth.
couldn't get it. Yeah,
It's hard to
right.
tell.
Was really frustrating, and also I think that playing the Jedi Master also made it so hard, where like anyone was taking me down, and it was one of those things where it's like it doesn't feel like I'm hitting him with a lightsaber. It feels like I'm hitting him with
a stick.
That's a
yeah.
great point. I felt
Yeah.
the same way. Yeah.
And like that got so frustrating, but I kept playing. And now
good.
I've hit the point where when I go against stormtroopers, I take them out fairly easily, and like I'm starting to feel that like, oh shit, I am a Jedi.
You're growing.
And like and
You're
like
starting to
it
learn
is-
their patterns and stuff.
Feeling that growth is really satisfying. It took a lot longer than I wanted to, though, to get there.
There's
think that's great.
There are a couple of enemies towards the end that have patterns that aren't super distinguishable from what their moves are going to be, what the next thing is going to be. I feel like there's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of games where an animation is about to start. Like God of War, I think when you're fighting some of the enemies there, when they do this move,
They're
this
about to-
attack is
yeah.
coming. I know what to do. And
Dodge
towards
left.
the end, some of them get kind of muddy, where it's like you hear the noise cue and it sounds similar to that other noise cue, but then it ends up being a different attack, and you should have jumped instead of
Yeah, I know
dodging.
exactly the one
and
you're
it is
talking
very,
about.
very frustrating.
Yeah, that's where it doesn't quite have, I think, the polish of
Yeah.
like Sekiro and Dark Souls. They have learned so much about how to do that. It's not bad. It's great in
Yeah.
this, but it's missing at times that you're like.
One of my
like
biggest frustrations is the lock on, because
Yes, yeah.
I
Oh, yeah, it's
would
not
always charge in. There's a dash forward move that you fly forward several feet, like 10 feet, and you zoom and and it's really, really cool looking, and it feels good, especially when they're far away. But there are some enemies that are not dodging it. You just, even though you're locked on, your body just like slides next to them. And
Yeah.
when you're in really, really sweaty
spaces.
fights.
Oh.
And you're low
boy.
on
I get it,
force, and when you're low on force charge,
Yeah.
you're using a lot of your force for that. And when it doesn't hit, it is fucking infuriating,
Yeah.
man. If
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
completely wasted.
if I'm gonna die, it's gonna be because I fuck up. But when something like that happens, it's like, oh, this fight's already kind of punishing, and little things like that
It's
are
just the camera and the lock-on.
annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to throw out before you kick it over there, sorry, is that in an email today, they gave us, the reviewers, an update on what's going on with some stuff we could do preview-wise, but also this. Additionally, please note that a pre-launch patch went live yesterday for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions of the game, which will fix some bugs and help stabilize loading from saves and respawns. There's another patch in development that will help the performance and be available after launch.
Loads are real bad.
Exactly. Yeah, those respawn loads are long as hell, and also
shit.
elevators take forever.
Oh my god.
The-
Why?
It was like Mass Effect time.
so-
And there was one I loved because you can see it on the map. And so I was like, oh, it's so far between it. They're trying to justify the load. I get it.
Yeah.
And there was one today when I was playing in there where it did it. And I was like, man, this elevator's been going on even longer than I thought. And I opened the map and I was at the destination, but the elevator's still making the movement noise as if I was like, you fuck.
I want to get back to the elevator stuff. So everyone at the table, remind me elevators. I'll
Elevators.
make a point later.
Elevator
But
pitch.
Nick, I want to hear your thoughts on this game so far.
I'm really liking it a lot.
How far are you?
I just got past. I don't know when it's triggered, but
spoiler.
no spoilers.
Worry
Just
about that.
Hours wise.
Hours wise. Geez, probably like 6 hours in.
Cool.
7 hours in, maybe. Maybe a little bit more, but I'm really liking it. I mean, I agree there are some technical hiccups with it, but overall, I'm really enjoying the environments. And I know Andy had a couple criticisms of needing to backtrack and stuff like that, but that's not bothering me so much because I think it encourages exploration in them, which is cool. I do agree the combat system is like a bit harder than I want it to be, but I do think that's because it's a little clunkier than I want it to be. But I'm also not like crazy into the hardcore like Souls type play, but I'm enjoying it.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah, so speaking of that, like that's the elevators.
Elevators.
That's kind of where I wanted to go, is with this idea of backtracking, of which there is a lot in this game. And I can see it totally being a pro or a con for you, depending on what you like
Style
to
of
do.
games you like,
but
yeah.
this game unapologetically made the decision to be like, you are following Cal throughout this adventure, and you need to do every single thing that he does. There's no like, oh, he goes
Fast
to
travel.
sleep and he wakes up and he's there. No fast travel. If you're gonna go somewhere, and if you land your ship on this planet and you go somewhere, as far as you go,
Ship stays there.
the
gotta come
ship
back
stays
there.
there.
As
You got to
Metroid.
come back to the ship. And it's Metroid, but Metroid doesn't really like go from planet to planet too much.
Just go from you get very
I guess.
to be fair, you get super deep in the Metro. You want to go all the way back to your ship. That's just how it is.
Yeah, but I feel like with this game, like with Metroid, I feel
I'm not saying it's necessarily right for the game. It's just
but I feel like it works better with the traversal, where the traversal is not frustrating in Metroid, whereas here there is a lot of times going back means sliding down 4 slides and jumping off ropes and all the stuff that is the more frustrating bits.
see that's the old school
But
stuff. I was
that's
talking
also
about,
though with the elevators, where it's like they make the elevators are that long because when you look at the map, the elevator
Takes you all the way there.
It takes you all the way across. So they're making it's like it's real time, and I'm like, I get that, and there are moments that I feel it really pays off. Like there are some surprise things that I really don't want to spoil because they're freaking awesome in this game that are only possible because of the backtracking.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know that at the end of the day that makes it worth it though.
See, I think it does and I think you used the word that I think is apt to many things in this game, unapologetic, right? Where from our preview, right, when I was bitching about the ropes and grabbing on divines and shit, right? And you're like, why is this so hard? It doesn't make me feel powerful. It makes me feel like I'm a fumbling idiot, right? And then you get force pull. And so the first time you jump off and you grab the thing, and I was like, like it's like I get it, like you made a choice here, and you're like, we're gonna make them do this, and make Cal get to that point.
Got you grappling.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I get that, but the punishingly like small hitbox for grabbing those ropes
I hear you.
is so annoying.
Oh,
And
I know.
Also, whoever decided the ice skating was a good idea needs to quit.
You never learn
frickin'
force ice
Starbucks.
skating
True.
with that.
True,
you know?
true, true.
And not only that, but like you'll get halfway through and be like, okay, I did this, and then you won't
Die,
grab
go
the
all the way
rope,
back
and
in.
you're like, why would the Jedi not be able to grab the rope?
Yeah,
Did they
yeah.
not learn rope grabbing in Jedi school?
Yeah, there's a lot of moments where after kind of a big story beat happens, I expect to go into, or you end a big fight or you do something kind of cool in the game that's bigger than other moments, and then I expect to go into cutscene, running towards the ship, like we gotta go, but it's like, oh, I have to run all the way back. Fuck, I hope I'm going the right way. Is this nope, I should have gone up this ladder.
If
like,
there would have been a way to bring on a mini map of some kind, I would have been down for that. Not necessarily drop a pin and have it traced out on the world, but it wasn't the amount of times where it was like, all right, I'm running. Wait, hold on, fucking stop, open the thing.
Yeah.
Like shit,
I'm getting hit.
I'm getting
hit.
chased by
Fuck.
something. I'm like, fuck, am I going the right way?
Well, that's my thing too. Like, the map is not great for me. I don't. It's difficult for me to like figure out what the heck's going on. But I will say, like, as far as the backtracking, I think they do a decent enough job when you unlock the shortcuts, so that you feel like if you take the right route, you're not wasting a lot of time. Except I didn't 3 times,
You gotta look
so I
at that,
ended up
yeah.
playing the entire level like 3 times over. And so I got there, I was like, oh, I could have just skid down the stupid ice thing, and then I was like, glad I didn't, because I hate that ice thing.
You see, and again, that's what I meant by, I know it sounds weird, but that's why I feel like it's this gamer's game and it has all this stuff of the past. Like, that's just how it's not evolved, but like that's how those games used to be played, and you're still gonna get that experience. Like, meaning I'm not saying it's a good thing, but like some of our most beloved games, like that's just how they still work.
But we have God of War now, and I think
Of course,
like earlier,
but this is not even close to bringing all those things together like that does, and that's why I said.
I think it is close.
No,
it's just,
no.
but I feel like it's close
Not
to
the polish
to
on all those pieces.
Definitely not the polish.
That's
but
what I mean, though.
I feel like
Everything's
it's close to being at a level where it could then be comparable to it. And I feel like that's the kind of what I'm most upset about this game is like it could have been that, and it should be that.
let me fast travel to every meditation point.
Yeah.
Let those be fast travel
all
points.
sorts of evolution, and that's where I was going with it. It's like I at least wanted to land on saying this is a great game. I think it's a great game, and it's got to grow in you too. Yeah, don't let the first few hours. And I know you hear this a lot, but hell, even Zelda did this.
That's
to
weird,
us.
but I loved it at the
Yeah,
beginning. I love
I did too.
I love the environment, some of the what do we call them? Like these sort of big, gigantic set pieces, where they show you kind of
blockbuster
where you're
moments.
at.
Yeah, where
and
you need to get to.
Yeah.
and like you're literally just platforming.
visuals
jumping
are
around.
awesome. And another problem.
But it's a slow burn, is my
Yeah.
point. Meaning
Before
until you
you
start
get
to
to the
get
other
your
problem,
powers.
let's hear a word from our sponsors. This episode of Kind of Funny Gamescast is brought to you by Felix Gray. You may not realize it, but the average American blasts their eyes with bright screens for 11 hours every day. Kevin, that sounds about right for both of us. Kevin's eyes are burning because he's doing this all wrong. We have TVs, we have cell phones, we have computer screens, we have the screens that are on top of taxi cabs. Ladies and gentlemen, there are way too many screens. The fact is, we can't eliminate extensive screen time from our lives, but you can protect your eyes from it with a pair of Felix Gray blue light filtering glasses available in both non-prescription and prescription formats. They're making it, options for everybody. People like me that have trouble seeing, people like Kevin who have what? Exactly. The majority of Americans live with tired, dry eyes, blurry vision, or headaches caused by screens. If this sounds familiar, Felix Gray glasses are for you. They filter out 90% of high-energy blue light and eliminate 99% glare coming from your daily barrage of screens. Unlike other blue light filtering glasses, Felix Gray uses proprietary blue light technology embedded into the lens, as opposed to a cheap coating that can easily chip or scratch over time. Felix Gray are handcrafted from the same high-quality materials used in high-end designer frames like organic Italian acetate and German-engineered steel. Wow. Tons of different fun options you can get. You can keep them classy. They have some sleek black ones that I'm a big fan of. Don't go another day looking at screens without the help of some Felix Grays. Go to felixgrayglasses.com/kinda for free shipping and 30 days of risk-free returns or exchanges. That's felixgrayglasses.com/kinda. felixgrayglasses.com/kinda. Also, shout out to Movement. Movement Watches has you covered this season with hundreds of watches, blue light glasses, sunnies, and jewelry styles to choose from. Stuff your stockings, impress your family, wow your partners, or treat yourself. You know what? Do something nice for you every once in a while. I see you. I see you right there. You look like you can use some sunglasses. You even look like you can use some watches. You know what I mean? You have 2 arms. Cool Greg loves his gold watch. He's wearing it all the time. You might have seen him on hit shows like, I don't know, any show that we do, really, that Cool Greg makes appearances in when he's handing Nick a drink. You see that watch. You see that gold glittery Movement watch. MVMT, baby. Movement watches start at just $95. They're clean designed, minimal, and really quality products. That's what we're talking about here. Movement sold almost 2 million watches in over 160 countries. You can add to that number and make it a bigger number next time I read this ad. Be the big winner this holiday season with a gift from Movement. Get 15% off today with free shipping and free returns by going to mvmt.com/kinda. That's mvmt.com/kinda. Join the movement. And one last ad for you today, ladies and gentlemen, it's Quip. I woke up this morning, brushed my teeth with Quip, and I had a great time. What am I going to do tonight? The exact same thing. What am I going to do tomorrow morning? Continue the cycle over and over and over to make sure that my teeth are clean. 30 seconds each quadrant of the mouth. How do I know when to change them? Well, guess what? There's a nice little pulse that goes, Kevin. It goes in your mouth, and it lets you know to change the sides. It's vibrating so good. Every 3 months, they send you everything you need. They send you the refill brush. They send you the refill battery. Next thing you know, boom, bada bing, bada bang. You got it. You got it. My favorite part is that the stand that you get. You can flip it over. It becomes a case. When I travel to London next week, I'm just going to take the same Quip toothbrush I always use. It's going to be a great time, and my teeth are going to stay clean even in a different country. I know, right? Let's see. That's why I love Quip and why it's perfect for getting back into a routine. Quip starts at just $25. And if you go to getquip.com/KF right now, you can get your first refill pack free. That's your first refill pack free at getquip.com/KF. Quip starts at just $25. If you go to getquip.com/KF right now, you can get your first refill pack free. It's true. What's your problem, Andy?
Performance mode versus 4K mode.
I've been wondering this for years. What is your problem?
Performance mode versus 4K mode. I think, after playing, I was talking to Barrett a little while ago, playing 73 hours of Death Stranding, which is in native 4K, and it's sharp as hell, and it's gorgeous.
30 frames, though. Yeah. It is.
Death Stranding's 30?
Yeah.
Fuck. It feels like 60. Anyway.
Smooth. It never stutters.
After playing the game for that long without any bugs, and I had like maybe 2 frame drops or whatever, but, I started off playing this game in 4K mode, and when I switched to performance mode, which then limits it to 1080p, when you're in your menu, I immediately noticed that Cal looks like really blurry. And kind of like not.
Texture down.
You gotta wait for the textures to load. I'm not kidding.
Does it do
There's
that?
multiple times where like you
I
load you load skins and stuff, and it takes like a solid 15-20 seconds before it actually like renders it.
Vision,
But no, but like
Borderlands.
he's been sitting on the screen forever. I don't mean that like the textures don't load. He just looks kind of not
Samey?
sharp.
Yeah.
So I was like,
I
you
mean,
know
they
what? I'm
gotta
gonna play this
downgrade.
game in 4K. I'm gonna play this game in 4K because I'm playing on 1X. Why not? I prefer that sharper look. And then I started having the frames dropping here and there. And I understood, okay, you know what? Let me go back to performance mode. Even on performance mode, a lot of frame drops. A lot of frame drops, especially on the first planet that you visit, which isn't super visually appealing also. I think that first planet you land on.
With all the like crooks and crannies.
Yeah, like I'm looking at this, I'm like, this looks kind of like gross. This,
The Thomas's English Muffin Planet, Greg.
Man, it looks good on PC,
Delicious.
on Epic, man.
No. I don't mean graphics wise. I mean the design of this planet. Like it's
okay.
not super visually appealing, but
No, it's
Bunch of green
the
islands.
polygonal detail. It's not like.
but I'm on
yeah.
performance mode, which should, I would think always be 60 frames per second, but I just don't think it's super optimized, and I'm getting a lot of frame drops in these areas, especially in combat where I'm fighting these stupid fucking slugs, and I just want to keep advancing, and I notice a lot of frame drops there. So that's kind of one of my big problems with performance mode is even though it is 60, you will drop to. I would love to see what Digital
Probably
Foundry
drop to
does in their
30.
breakdown because I'm pretty sure it drops down to like
30
20
or
or
below,
30ish.
yeah.
I'm with you, where I normally play games performance mode, and with this one, I had similar experiences where this doesn't feel like it's adding much, so I switched over to high res mode.
Okay.
It's too
And it
bad.
looks
Yeah,
great.
because God of War was able to pull off, even though they said that it has the drops. Like overall, God of War felt much better for me.
Same.
Performance. It was Nick. About
Oh
to
no, I
say?
was just gonna say I don't know how much more long you guys are gonna talk about this, but I really like the game. I think that a lot of my criticisms are very, very minor. Like going back to Andy's point, where it's like I wish we could fast travel to the save points. I don't, because I think that it really, really encourages. I think the level of exploration in this is just enough to keep me wanting to find some of the secrets and some of the chests that I can't get to, and that's perfect for me. If there were more to do, I'd be like I need to get back here. But the fact that I occasionally will literally be traveling backward and see something that I didn't see
Yeah, you
before,
find
because I'm
this
coming at it
chest.
from a different angle. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's really, really cool. It's smart level design.
Yeah, I like that. I at first, I mean, in our preview session, right when we came out of it, I talked a lot about this of like, how the fuck do I get back to the Mantis? I want to wrap this demo. They're telling us it's almost over. Having that experience and learning like a little bit of what they're trying to go, but then getting into it, I'm happy there's not a fast travel because I love the exploration of it. I love living in that world. I love taking it from point A to point B. I haven't done it in a game in a long time. I feel like of literally being in a room and being like, I got to get up there. How the fuck do I get up there? And then you look at the map and you try a million different things to make it work. And all right, well, how am I going to do this?
But going back to what I was originally saying is like I agree with that about the fast travel stuff would definitely change the game. In some ways I think for the better, in some ways for the worse, but I just feel like the exploration, like I feel like I was punished for exploring more often than not. Like going back to getting caught in hallways, getting caught in elevators, like those things where it's like there was no avoiding that like at certain points where it's just like I went down a path that the game let me go down. And then I got screwed. For
the dark
exploring.
side pulled you in.
Yeah, and it hit a point where it's like it stopped making me want to explore.
I
you know?
tend to come down always on the side of player convenience, and that's I think one of the distilled points of it.
Oh no, just get closer.
No,
to
no,
it.
Okay, cool. I was like, oh man. Oh, okay, cool. So I think you guys distilled one of my main issues with it was that it's not always convenient to play, and I always come down on the side of player convenience. Now, of course, this is a completely different genre, but I'm playing Dragon Quest XI right now, right? And it just goes out of its way to meet you where you are. So stuff like fast traveling between checkpoints, I wish you could do that, but I also understand how and why it would change the game. But also things like, I think, Greg, you mentioned earlier, when you die against a boss, you have to retraverse everything. That's like PS1 Xenogears style.
Yeah, no,
Watch this cutscene over and over.
Yeah,
that
it's
should
some
have been
Kingdom Hearts 1 level shit
Exactly,
where you're just
like,
like this boss is way too hard. I'm gonna have to trial and error it
Yeah.
like enough times that there shouldn't be a 30-second
Fucking
respawn
Dothman, man.
loan,
Dothman.
and then having to like it's you never
Go all the way back
you
to the
rarely
path, get
respawn
down to
at the
yeah.
boss.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You respawn like inconveniently far back. It's not the worst thing.
There's
in the
only
world.
one boss with multiple phases I remember dying at and starting on the second phase again. And I was like, oh my God, thank you, because I was about to lose my fucking mind.
Yeah, I didn't like that boss at all.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
one
I
really
think that's
bothered
where
me.
I've like accepted this old school design that I don't prefer it that way. I'm just like, that's just how this game's going to be the whole
Totally.
time. So you got to put yourself in it. You can't expect like to go back to God of War. God of War just it had the fast travel. It has dialogue while you're in the boat and like so many improvements that this game doesn't. But again, I mean, Fallen Order
It did work in my benefit once though, where there was a boss fight near the end, and you spawned in between 3 enemies. And I was so close to having this next upgrade on my skill tree. And I was at the
Give me
meditation
XP.
spot, and I farmed it for
Yeah.
at least like
yeah.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
I farmed
that
it,
many
killed them
times.
all, went back to the meditation thing, because every time you meditate, you
It's like Bloodborne, where
Just
you go
like
back
Scarab
and you
Bloodborne,
go bring all your
you get
enemies
your
back.
stimulants back, but also the enemies respawn.
the
I was
enemies
talking to Tim about this. I don't like that they tell you the enemies respawn. I wish it just happened, because it telling you kind of just takes me out of like the world. Like,
thought the same
It's a
exact
very
thing when I first saw
gamified
that.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you come to the meditation spot, your health will respawn. It could, your force will be, but also the bad guys come back. Like it was just a very weird thing. Anyway, but there is that spot where I just used that to farm.
I've
There's,
done that
there's
many
a
times.
spot in this game that I swear to God they put in just to let you farm.
Oh, please tell me what it is when we're off air. 'Cause
Okay.
I'm 6 points away from
I
having
think it's
all
story
my powers.
based. I don't think you can do it
You suck
anymore.
and I hate you.
But man, like it was such a moment where I'm like, God, this game knows what it is so freaking hard. And I love it.
It's funny to hear because any spot that there was a meditation spot next to like 5 or 6 enemies, I farmed until like it felt like I'd been there for, frankly, I'd be there 15 minutes getting 1 or 2 skill points. So I think that's where I'm playing it a little differently too. I'm like, I don't even want to move forward till I get this next skill I want. Which, by the way, hopefully is a big segue into something I've been trying to get to, which is since I'm only 25, 30% through, and I think it's a great game that's warming up. One of the best parts of a game like this, obviously beyond all this inspiration, is the progression of your skills. And so it was so cool to get the force push, but I don't have a pull. And without spoiling, like how long does that last? Does it feel, like God of War, Zelda, or does it have a skill tree that really starts to develop and you feel like, because I haven't gotten into a fight and been like I just feel
you will.
so far
Yeah,
away
you
from
will.
You
that.
definitely will.
How long
I
in the
feel
progression,
like all of the story-based skills that you get are all fantastic, and every single time you get it, it comes at the right time, and it makes you feel like I can now do something that I've been wanting to do that I haven't been able.
Yeah, these
to.
are memories that you get that upgrade,
the
right?
way
Those.
This goes back to the gameplay backing up the story backing up the gameplay. Like I think they do a really good job with that.
Some of them,
The skill tree stuff.
Some of them aren't super great though.
Powers?
I think maybe no, not the powers. The way they are presented in the story.
The whole thing in general is a weird one, right? Of like he's remembering things he forgot on like how to use the
When
force.
He suppressed it because he got the force getting
Yeah.
or Jedi's getting like put in the
Purged.
state they
Sure,
in.
yeah. I mean,
He
he's
is
been in hiding, and like I
suppressed.
said, he kind of cut himself off. He didn't cut himself off, but he
Repressed,
kind of
sorry.
he repressed
So
it on.
literally is supposed. These are repressed memories. That
I get
he's
it, but I feel like if
hidden.
I knew how to run on a wall and I got to a wall, and I'm like, I need to run
Exactly.
on the wall, I'd be like, can't I run on the wall?
Exactly. Yeah. After that,
I know how to use
Greg,
this a
give
little
me
bit.
a
What did
little
I?
bit of-
That's the
creative
main
freedom.
part of that. I'd say maybe that's probably the only one where I did kind of like roll my eyes of like,
it's-
I remember back in my Jedi training. Now I know how to run on the wall. I was like, you played
Yeah,
Titanfall.
that stuff didn't bother me too much.
It didn't
Sure,
bother me. It was
it's
totally
a-
like that's the world. Okay.
But like in terms of the skill itself, I enjoyed that. Now, what I didn't like is the skill tree. I feel early on you unlock a couple abilities that are like, oh, this is awesome. I feel like all of the later game stuff is not awesome at all.
Now it's a
Really?
wider area of effect.
And
now
it's-
you can throw your lightsaber
Yeah.
further.
But even then, like the throwing lightsaber stuff, it's like I feel like the game's just not built around it. Like I
not.
never used it, and it's unfortunate because that's cool when you first look at the grid and you're like kind of imagining what you're going to be at the end of the game. It's not that cool.
See-
like you don't really learn interesting moves.
And it's so rarely the lightsaber so rarely hits people on the way back. Every once in a while it happens, but there are a couple times where you see, zoom, and it hits them, poof, they get damage, and it flies, and it comes back, and it clips through their body, and no damage is administered, and it's like, oh fuck, man, like
Yeah.
I need a
I
little bit
just
more
use so much
polish
force
there.
power for nothing.
Yeah. So and that's drawing it straight to a comparison with God of War. Then like there's so many different ways to play, and then you get multiple weapons. In God of War, like it's so satisfying. It sounds to me like this kind of like is inspired by
Like
but
most of it,
doesn't
almost
get
gets
anywhere
there.
close to it. Is that
It
accurate? to say?
almost gets there,
Does it
yeah.
get almost there? Because the way you're describing it, it's like doesn't get close to what God of War is.
Oh
able to
no!
accomplish.
Well, again, going back to
The
what
way
I was
I'm
saying,
hearing
is
it.
it's almost getting close to.
I'm gonna say it's like 50%
It's
out
like,
of 100 on that maybe.
but
or
yeah, I
don't
mean,
know.
it's like it's a weird thing,
and it's
man.
not bad, right?
It's
just-
not bad. It's just like
you
it's-
just don't use a lot of them.
And
Like
it's a point
I'm
where-
not. Right now, I've been working on this platinum and getting all these skill points and doing all these things. I'm just buying it random now. Like I've gotten everything I want out of the skill tree. All the other shit of like, oh, now it's another button combination. Now it's this. Now I'm like,
I think you found. I think maybe halfway through the game you find your rhythm and you find
What
what
your-
your
yeah,
weapons are
your
going to
loadout.
be.
Yeah.
Weapons meaning like kind of all
Your
right.
go-to
Your
move.
I'm always
powers
going to
and
do
your
this,
skills.
followed by this thing, and that usually does a decent amount of damage. But yeah, one thing I was mentioning earlier about the combat is I feel like the when an attack is coming and you're breaking their
the parry.
no, but you're breaking.
They have a block
thing.
meter.
Oh yeah, they have
focus.
a
Focus.
block
Yeah.
shield or yeah.
Their focus meter, I feel like that isn't really harped on a lot early game, and it really doesn't feel like it's super important. Their focus bars isn't super important until kind of towards the end.
Yeah.
Is in my opinion.
I also feel like in addition to the moves that they give you in the later skill tree stuff aren't that cool, there's also a ton of things that like I can't believe we didn't get by the end of it. Like even just more advanced combos, like
Right.
even just more kind of like combinations of X and Y
See, that's why I
button
asked,
presses.
because that's what I'm hoping for. So I'm a little concerned that it's mostly just about the. So for clarity again, right? There's a skill tree which you use the force to do stuff, force power, a meter. But then you have these memories that were repressed that you get actual force powers. Is that accurate? You don't really upgrade your skill tree.
No,
to
those
get
are like
force
your
push.
passive moves.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Meaning
yeah,
you don't
yeah.
upgrade your skill tree to get a force push.
No.
You remember
No,
that.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
there's a big difference between those two things. So in other words, the stuff I remember, do you get some pretty cool stuff, or is it?
It's what you expect.
There is one skill tree thing that is like a new move,
Force
I
power?
would say.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we were saying the moves kind of suck.
That's fair.
I know, but I was just
Yeah.
for progression. So okay, well,
yeah.
I'm curious to see on that front because
But
again,
I
I'm
think
not,
what you're talking about, the passive things, story elements aside, whatever, I think that all the abilities are awesome. Like I think
And
that
what you'd expect,
they're what
though.
you,
Yeah, yeah.
they're-
They're
yeah,
good. The
no
force
crazy
abilities you
surprises, but it's
remember.
like it's little things that like
Oh, I can split myself up into 15 little me's.
yeah, no, it's not that. But they're satisfying, and I feel like they all come at the right time.
I've been
in
a
the
droid
end.
this whole time.
Okay.
Barrett, we have you now. I want to give you the floor. What do you think?
B-Force? The floor is yours.
Big B Force.
He's about
What's
to
up, everybody? It's
lay
B-Force
it on you.
coming at you from twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. I don't know. I don't have my own Twitch.
Hammered right now.
What number White Claw is that?
This is 5.
Jesus
All right.
Christ.
Sad.
What's up, boys?
It's a Thursday afternoon.
We in it now. Jedi Fallen Order is by far and away my favorite game this year. It's my game of the year. But also to give context, this has been a weird year for me for games. Like Andy and I did the Katana Zero comic book club back in May or whatever, and back then that was like my game of the year, and that was still my game of the year
Still up
until
there for
now.
me.
Yeah, and that's like I just had a weird relationship with games this year, so it hasn't been a highlight. But this game blew me away in so many ways. Like the highest compliment I can give. I don't think I've said, and I told you this Tim earlier, like last Friday. I don't think I've said "holy shit" this many times in the first hour of a game since the first time I played Arkham City. And if you know how big of a Batman fan I am, and like how big of a Star Wars fan I am, like that was a lot. Like taking in Arkham City for the first time, and like how many references and like how many points of the main story where I'm like, I can't believe they're doing this. That hit the same note for me for the first couple hours of this game.
This game is hype. There
Yeah.
are hype
And
moments
it's
left
hyped
and right.
all the way through.
Yeah.
All the way to the fucking credits. That's the thing
Absolutely.
where I was. That's what I was stressing to people when I was talking about it. Not
The
spoiling it.
midpoint dropped for me. That's
There's
Again,
a drop, but I
Dothmere.
still. But even then, it has moments. Like even
Sounds
Dothmere,
like
which
it's got-
I think
and
we
there's
agree is
moments
the worst
there.
thing,
There's
but
moments
there
there.
are moments there. I'm like,
Constant story beats and moments.
yeah.
Yeah, and like beside, like I understand the bugs, and I feel like I was on the lesser side of bugs, which I feel bad about. Like I definitely ran into a couple. There's a point on Dothmere, like in the story, where you pull a bridge down, and people are shooting at you, and you have to like turn left and go down a mudslide. And this is the only time I've ever had a problem with the sliding mechanic, where there's a jump that you have to get over. And at this point, my health bar was pretty long, and I had like 5 stim packs that I could use,
You
and I
burned
straight
through
up
them all.
died 3 times, and I had to go through that entire sequence 3 times, and it was just like, it was because I didn't come at it from the correct angle, where I was jumping from that gap in the middle of the mudslide, and it was because I needed to be all the way to the right, but the game didn't tell me like to do that. So with bugs like that, I felt like that was like one of 2 maybe that I had, but it sucks to hear from like y'all's experience of
Yeah,
like,
with-
oh
it's-
yeah, like we're dealing with
and
a
to-
lot, and it's like it's one of those things where like, yeah, I get it,
And
you
it's
know,
not
like,
a bug, though, to be clear, right? I mean, I know you're just using the word like that, but it's funny. It's not a bug. It's just a bad design.
No, I don't think I
unfortunate.
don't think it was a bug because when I
Once
finally
you
got
knew how to
over
do
it,
it, it works fine.
There's a moment.
Okay.
There was a moment the other night where I text Greg a photo of my screen. I'm like, I'm fucking so pissed and annoyed right now. What do I do here?
And that
Is
moment,
this-
And I screenshotted it back and drew on it. I'm like, do this, and you're like, that guy never spawned. This didn't happen. I'm like,
And
I was
the-
like,
the
I'm
worst
so
thing
annoyed.
about this is that same exact moment, 12 hours prior, I had called Barrett. I'm like, what the
I was
fuck?
on the bus. I felt so weird. I was like, I hate talking on the bus, and Tim was like, hey, I need help right now. I'm like,
but
I'll
the-
try to help you as best as I
To
can.
be clear here, though,
vaguely
this
as
moment,
possible.
it's not like
It wasn't a
I
broken
only
moment.
needed help. No, for me, it was. For me, there's a thing you need to jump and grab onto a ledge. I clearly saw that, knew what I had to do.
And the game
Tried
just
jumping on it,
wasn't
it would not
registering
let
it.
me jump and grab the ledge.
Yeah.
And when you do something a couple times in a game that you've learned, if you jump, you grab the ledge, like, or you don't. And when you jump and you don't grab the ledge, even though it's clear that
Yeah.
that looks like where it's driving you, you stop trying it.
Yeah.
Because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, there must be something else that I'm missing.
Right. And then you straight
20
up sent
minutes
me
later-
a picture, and I was like, "No, yeah, you got to jump and grab that ledge."
And I was
you're
like,
just like, what?
there's no way. There's
See,
no
it's different
fucking
for me
way.
because it wasn't broken for me.
That
From my
sounds like
point
a
of view,
bug
I
on
was
that
like,
front.
that doesn't look different from anything else that I cannot grab on.
Yeah.
Like that looks exactly like all the other things in this world that I
a problem,
cannot.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
there are a lot of moments like that where like the game does a really, and I don't want to harp on that because the game does do a lot of great things around the world with level design, and we always see these things. Have you guys heard of Blocktober? Blocktober is
What?
where level designers in video games showcase their level design and past work and shit like that.
Oh, yeah,
It's like on Twitter. It's like Inktober where people
that makes
draw
sense.
shit.
Yeah, I understand.
So the game does a great job of doing what kind of. I remember watching a lot of videos, essays about how Uncharted leads your eye with lighting,
Yellow and
with
light,
with
yeah.
you don't know where to go, but there's a red light coming out of that hallway. You got to go through there, or there's always a colored edge to make sure you grab on that thing. Tomb Raider does a lot of that.
Again,
Where
signposting.
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that,
And
Zelda.
but on the opposite side of it, there are some moments where that doesn't look any different than anything else in the fucking
and
world.
and that's the
Wait,
problem
wait.
where there's so many moments where I wanted to go explore, and then I would turn a corner and be like, all right, I think I'm going off the beaten path, and then it'd just be the next story moment, and I'm like, well, I'm already at this moment, I might as well like continue forward, and that is another like
Yeah.
main issue with me. But to go back, like story wise for me, like I agree with you. Like if this was put in a movie that was accessible to the mainstream, like not video game audience, like I think this could rival against some of the best Star Wars stories told so far. I think this is so cool of how they build Cal, how they build some of the lore, especially what's going on right now, 5 years after Order 66 and stuff like that. Like I think this game just so much that's great story wise.
And I feel like there's a lot of love and reverence for the prequel trilogy and original trilogy.
Yeah, if
and
you're a
they make
fan of
it
the original trilogy
contextual.
storytelling type, like there's a story here for you. If you're a fan of the prequels, there's something here for you. If you're a fucking fan of the Clone Wars TV show, there's something here for you.
What if I like Solo?
No,
No, sorry, man.
Nobody likes
nothing here
Solo.
for you. Like they just put in so much love, and it never feels ham-fisted and like shoved into a way. Like you
authentically Star Wars.
texted me an early moment where you're like, oh my god, I'm in. I'm like, yes, exactly, because it's just enough that they understand where the galaxy is right now in this moment, and they know how to carefully tell that story.
And they tell their own story, which
Yeah.
I love so much. You know what I mean? I think one of the big things about Battlefront 2 people hated, right, was the shoehorning in of people of like, wait, I thought this was like Iden's story, right? Like, why is this happening? Why is that going on? And here it's very much like, we're telling our story. This is our story. Star Wars is happening around it or whatever.
I am glad that for some reason, upon watching the early versions of the trailers, I don't know why the point didn't get across to me that Cal is in hiding. I, for some reason, thought that based on the trailer where his friend in the beginning is falling and he uses the Force to sort of... for me, I always assumed that this was a story of Cal being a Jedi or having Force powers, but not really knowing that he was.
Interesting.
And then so once it is uncovered that, oh, you were fully trained and now you are
Well,
kind
you
of
were in
pushed out
training,
and you were in training. Yeah.
you're a survivor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that made me just absolutely love the story a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many moments. There's an entire sequence, like a 4-hour sequence almost in this game, where I decided like, yeah, this is my game of the year because of just the moments that I could not believe that they were reaching to with the story of him, where we are in the galaxy. Like I just did not think that they would go to these places, and I think of like of a Star Wars story, quote unquote, like quality story, like they just did so many things that blew me away. As far as gameplay goes, I absolutely love it. I've always respected and appreciated Dark Souls games, but those worlds like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, like they've never really grabbed me. I'm never into the art style. I'm not into like weird knight stuff, and with Bloodborne, just whatever the fuck that is. But this is finally a world where I can actually like go in and appreciate it. So like some of the frustrations I would talk with I think with Kevin and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, like every time, like I don't like the enemies come back and stuff like that, like, or I don't like going all the way back to the ship. Like I really appreciate that, and I'm finally get a game where I can appreciate that because it's a world that I care about, and it's cool to have that Dark Souls moment where I'm fighting a fucking Space Frog for 30 minutes, and it's bullshit, and I hate it. But once I beat him, probably a little earlier than I should have, it feels so fucking good. And there's a boss fight way late in the game where it took me like an hour and a half, and I refused to bring the difficulty down because I just wanted to do it because I knew like when he does this, that means he's going to do this attack, and I know when I fuck up, like, that's on me.
Yep.
And it's 3:30 in the morning, I'm going, fuck, and I'm hitting my bed.
And there was a moment where I'm on that boss fight, and I'm playing it for an hour and a half, and Alyssa's next to me playing Stardew Valley, having the chillest time. And she's looking over at me, and she's like, do you like this game? I'm like, yes, absolutely. And she's like, are you sure? I was like, yes. When I'm screaming, it's not because I'm mad at the game. I'm mad at myself.
It's challenging me.
Yeah, and it's so gratifying. That being said, there are some boss fights or harder enemies that I think are designed well in the fight themselves, but they're placed in weird spots that don't fit their exact design. Like, I will say, not spoiling it whatsoever, I think the last boss fight, like, I really enjoyed that boss fight, but the kind of arena that you're in sucks for like those animations and what you are doing against that boss. That like
I'll also tell you why that sucks a lot for me.
Yeah.
Whenever an enemy is preparing a move that you cannot block or parry, they turn red, and all of that area is red. And it's hard to tell when that character is about to perform a move that is unblockable. And
because there's
sometimes
some
you hear the
design,
sound cue, but it's this world is red, and it's not the Sith or whatever, but it's the Empire, and it's all dark and scary looking.
Yeah.
And in every other environment, you know, no matter how it's lit, you know, you see the red, you're like, okay, I cannot parry that. I need to get the fuck out of the way. Yeah. But with that encounter, it was a little bit hard to decipher.
Yeah, but besides that, there were there were moments that were like I feel like, oh yeah, this is okay. There are dumb moments of like being buggy and stuff like that. But then there are honestly heights of this game in story beats and gameplay beats that like hit God of War for me, of just the spectacle and what you're doing in the moment. I was like, Jesus.
No spoilers, but I mean, getting way outside of where we thought we would be doing things on a scale I never thought I'd be doing in this game.
There are some planets where I'm like, okay, this is kind of overstaying its welcome. Like, I want to move on in the story.
Oh, we're going back here?
Yeah, and it's like one of those moments, like, the experience I had, at least, like, when I felt tired of a place, 20 minutes later, it'd be like, all right, we're changing this up, and this is what the story is about now. It's like, holy shit, I can't believe we're doing this
also,
right now.
Forrest Whitaker's a voice.
Yeah, straight. They brought up Forrest.
Oh, no way.
Brought Forrest Whitaker.
It actually
back
was
for
him.
his,
wow,
Yeah, I was so
really
distracted
cool.
by how horrible fucking Wookiees look in this game.
Yeah.
I did not
Yeah,
know
it's
that
weird.
voice.
It's really...
I was joking around about it. I don't know at what
Wookiees
point.
will never look good in any game.
I don't know
ever.
at what point they're like, guys, we can't animate Wookiees, and somebody else is like, well, we have a whole fucking planet.
Let's
of
go
ours,
to
so-
their planet then.
They're so
and that's
tall
one
and
of the-
skinny. It's really bizarre because it like on the
And
opposite
they all have
side,
the Chewie voice. All of them have
on the opposite
Chewie.
side, Cal's hair when up close looks fantastic. All the character artists
you're in a
who
dark
worked on
hallway,
hair
though?
look great.
Awful.
Oh well, it's there's some lighting and rendering
halo
issues.
animation.
No, but I think a lot of that is BD1's light shining on his hair. That happened to me a lot, where I was like, "Why is his hair fucking shining?" It's like,
Super Saiyan.
"Oh, BD light's eyes or whatever." But
anyway, yeah,
the fur on a Wookiee on the opposite side of
God.
it just not very good
It's
looking.
always glossy, and like they all have just Chewie's voice. None of them sound different. It's really weird. But
racism.
again, there's references even to the Wookiees. There's a Wookiee character where, like, if you know like lore and characters, there's gonna be one that you're like, oh my god, I can't believe they're bringing this character.
Yeah,
Star
there's
Wars
a lot of really
Christmas
cool
specials
stuff.
in the game. You heard
There
it.
we go.
We spoiled it. You
But
heard
Greg, going off something you were saying about Battlefront 2, of why that
Sure.
campaign didn't work for I think any of us, really. Like, Barrett might be the one exception.
No, Battlefront 2 is bad. Bad story, bad.
I don't know if
it.
it was meant to. I mean, Battlefront 2 campaign to me always just seemed like, let's use our existing multiplayer maps and build a story in them.
But I mean, it was promoted as if it was going to be...
We listened, and there's a Battlefront.
and so whatever. Where I feel this game succeeds so successfully is that it doesn't rely purely on we got to have every single character that you know make an appearance, and they show restraint that pays off. Anytime you get, whether it's an obscure Wookiee character or a character that you're a bit more familiar with, it always feels like, oh, I'm so happy this is the one we're getting, and it's not like Luke shows up and is then with you the entire time or whatever the hell. It's like such smart choices made, whether it's just ship designs that you see, and when you see them, it's
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
this is cool. Like you took a
That happened to me
thing
in the
that I
beginning. One of the dark side ships flies by. I was like, "Oh, let's go!"
That's
and it
awesome.
was
Yeah.
minor, but I had that moment right in the beginning. I was like, it was a reference that just was so cool.
There's story beats too where the game shows that it's aware of that, and like there'll be lines where it's just like, you know who I am, and like reveals it, and you're like, huh, not who I thought you were gonna be, and
Yeah.
like they could have easily made that a cheesy moment, and it ended up being fantastic. What's
I
up,
have to
Ash?
nitpick for a second.
Yes.
Going back to the little visual jank, that kind of the lack of polish we sometimes see in the game. Am I the only one who hates Cal's running animation?
Oh my god, yeah.
He looks so goofy.
Running and jumping look so silly.
I can't.
I guess I've never really.
He had.
I
to
It could be
I
better
love the
again. Like
jumping.
The
it,
jumping is the
it's exaggerated.
And he's like, his arms are flailing. He's got the lightsaber, and I'm just like, dude, you look like a cosplayer who's trying to,
I don't know. I totally disagree.
Really?
Yeah, like I actually thought that mainly the jumping stuff, the running stuff, it didn't bother me for
Okay.
sure. But I thought I was very
jumping
impressed
bothered
with the
me so
jumping,
much.
especially as you go through the game and you get other abilities. I was like, this jump looks perfect.
All right.
It's exactly
I'm just talking about the
the normal jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's like you get a jump
fine.
later.
I mean,
it's really
It reminds
really,
me of the
really
Naruto
good.
run. Sometimes he put his arms behind his, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
man, you look goofy.
Control
But
had a
I'm glad
really
it
good
gets better.
exaggerated
That's better.
style. And I mean, the game is a super vivid, sci-fi game. So I feel like it actually. I see what you're saying, but I think it overall fits. It works.
I think there are a couple of aliens that are introduced that don't look great to me. Like
Yeah.
they didn't feel like they belonged in the world.
Interesting.
What I want to
Lay
avoid
spoilers.
We should do a
but-
spoiler
Oh,
cast
I-
for this
Yeah.
one.
I want
I'd
for
love to
sure.
do a
Actually,
spoiler
though,
cast for this one.
in this vein, and I'm wondering if it's just like me and my setup, but the lip syncing is not great.
Yeah,
at
I
lip
had
all.
sync is-
scenes that were really bad.
There-
yeah.
Mine
and
seem
it's not
off
the entire
completely the
time.
whole
There's
time.
just like for me, it was like 5 or 6 ones
I'm
where
really
I'm like, this
sensitive
is
to it.
awful.
I actually just think it wasn't good across the board.
I think there's a lot of
Interesting.
bugs with going into cutscenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many issues. I'd say like maybe 60 to 70% of my cutscenes for a second of the scene, the characters aren't there and lighting is weird, and then poof, everything pops into
Yeah.
place.
I really
And
hope
that
that
shit's
these
so jarring.
these
man.
patches
Hopefully
fix a
yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
this.
Or you can
these
get a
issues.
PC,
but,
everybody.
But they won't fix all of them. Like so many of them are design flaws, and I think
Yeah, the
that's-
sliding and the ropes and all that jazz.
yeah,
That's not gonna
getting
get
caught
fixed.
in
yeah.
rooms and all of
yeah,
it
I mean,
is-
it is.
Yeah, I have one red door I was texting Barrett about of like when you look at your map, there's inaccessible things that are red that are blocked, right? And it's a literal red force field that you shut down a million. You turn them on, turn them off, but it's like I look at this and I'm like, is this a bug? I can't tell because there's no way for me to turn it on from where I am, and clearly I've had it off before. So is it that I went through and turned it on,
Locked it from the other side,
Yeah,
maybe?
and then I went down and now I'm
Very well
stuck.
could
I'm gonna
be.
try to do it tonight because I felt bad when
If you
you
want to
texted
see
me.
it, I can show it to you.
Yeah. I want to try to fuck with it on my own save tonight. But the last thing I'll say is that I do. There was a Games Daily story the other day that Fran knows of where there's no EA early access for this game.
Yeah.
And it was just announced this week, and it was like very like. You guys should have announced this maybe a little earlier.
Apparently, it
So-
was in an investor call weeks ago. I heard. Now I didn't
Interesting.
verify, but
And
nonetheless,
the reason
they
that
came out and said
the
it.
reason that they give is because of spoilers, and I half believe that because there are a lot of major moments. Again, if you're caught up on
game's
like
special.
all of Star
Yeah.
Wars stuff, this game's special if you're a casual Star Wars fan, or if you're like heavy into like fucking all the shows, like I am and stuff. Like there are cool moments that if I knew EA Access people had early access to this game and I didn't, I would shut off the internet because
I
they're
urge you
just-
to beat it.
that part.
Yeah,
makes sense.
we
and-
urge you to beat this game.
Yeah, we
Fast
urge you
as
to
possible
beat.
and
Yeah,
don't look at anything.
Yeah,
exactly,
for
because
sure.
there are just so many
Yeah.
great moments.
This is a
but I
game-
also think that like EA early access probably wasn't granted because I think of how buggy this game was. Just to go back to that.
I mean,
point.
I think it's the same reason we talked about this on
think it's
Games Daily
spoilers
today.
more than-
Why
Really?
why the review embargoes right now? It's because
Yeah.
they have nothing to gain by having the reviews out early. Guess
Yeah.
what? It's Star Wars. It's
You're gonna
going
buy
to
it.
sell. Putting it out early, either as a review or letting people play it early, does nothing but weaponize it in terms of spoilers. Weaponize it in terms of look at these bugs. Weaponize it in terms of here's a reason to be cool in this game, like to
Yeah.
not like it. I think the fact that it's Star Wars means it's going to sell, and now the fact that I would imagine. If we're so positive, I imagine most other reviews.
This game
will
is
as
going to
well.
be in Game of the Year conversations.
Oh,
is
yeah.
it going to be Game of the Year for any outlet? We'll see, but it's going to be in the
Certainly a
conversation.
So
possibility.
the
For
last
sure.
question I have for you might want to save this until the very end of the episode. I don't know, but
I feel like we're wrapping up now.
so Metacritic score, like we did with Death Stranding, do we want to guess? Because I think I'm pretty confident in what my guess would be.
Yes, you do. Before we get to that, though, I want to do one question from a crazed monkey. How monetized/monetizable is it?
He's outside. Let him in.
There's no monetization.
No EA bullshit.
If they
man.
wanted to, they could, but I don't think they will because of
micros.
messaging on
And
it.
he- and-
I pray, like my thing about somebody who's playing right now, platinuming it, and wants more. I hope Respawn does New Game Plus. I hope that
That'd be awesome.
they do DLC for it in terms of like another side story, something else for me to do, a new planet.
This game
somewhere
ends, and I'm like, I want more.
and that's the thing, is like not only do I want more, I'm now 15 hours past wanting more, and I still want more.
Like a few more ponchos.
I
few
love
more-
some
Yeah, man.
ponchos, you know
Yeah,
what I
get them
mean?
ponchos.
I like the
baby.
ponchos and the
It's
costume
true, though.
options.
You want more of that.
I want
stuff.
like a white suit and then like a black suit.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
I'm
Yeah,
okay
no
that
stuff.
there's so many ponchos. I just wish there was so many jackets.
other types
Yeah.
of
There's
absolutely.
none. It's infuriating how few options there
There's
are.
literally right 2 outfits and then a lot
There's
of
four.
stuff.
There's
it's-
4 normal
it's-
outfits and then a million ponchos.
Okay.
I think it's.
Well, I only have a poncho
yeah.
in his normal outfit, so I'm like, I guess there's no other. So you're wait, just for clarity, there's the poncho and then what's underneath.
Yeah, just
and you
like
can
what
have the
he's wearing.
poncho off or what's underneath. You're saying there's 2 additional options beyond those.
The what's underneath is just different colors.
Colors.
I
are
know
the
that,
same
but
thing.
you said there's 4
Yeah.
of what?
different
There are
colors.
4 versions.
Oh, the
of it, yeah.
underneath thing 4 colors. I mean, no,
That's it.
but that's it. That's what
That's
I'm saying.
it,
There's
yeah.
only that in the poncho.
I had like the navy and then I
Colors
unlocked
aside.
like a
The
tan,
tan,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like
But then
the
you get
poncho,
another
there's
one
like
that's
20.
like, oh, I remember finally unlocking it. Like, yeah, and I jumped in. I'm like,
But,
I had to go
um,
back and forth between the Navy. I'm like, what the fuck is the difference?
But yeah, so wait, are we gonna guess Metacritic score?
Yes, hold on. Before we do that,
yeah.
there was one more question that I wanted to read.
Granted, ours goes up while it's
So,
happening.
what was the last question? Sorry.
It's already over. Don't worry.
The monetized thing.
Oh yeah, I honestly
Zip
think
Vince Ampello
I
meant
would
Remember,
be
he absolutely said, and in clarity says, we will not be putting it in ahead of time nor after. He clarified it's not going to show up after, so it's confidently not just not going to be there.
Koink writes in and says, there's 2 questions. Do you think this game will be enough for Disney to allow EA to create a sequel? And is there an end game
Yes.
aspect to this game? Will there be a sequel?
Yes,
Absolutely.
100%.
Thank God. I hope
Yeah.
so. You know what I
And
mean?
then-
Especially when we talk about like learning from this thing, right? Of seeing what the feedback is and figuring out how to make the ice luge fun. Or the mud luge or whatever you want it to be, and like make your rope hitbox bigger and all these different things. I can't wait for the sequel.
I mean,
Is
I
there an-
honestly think this was an easy yes before the game even came out, before we even had it in our hands.
Yeah.
They specifically named it Star Wars Jedi: Fallen Order.
Yeah.
They created the series and they branded it as this specifically with sequels in mind. Like
There will
they
be a
wouldn't
sequel, no
they
question.
wouldn't call it Star Wars Jedi: without having ideas.
We're gonna
for
have
the
a Star
future.
Wars Jedi series.
But if
Yeah,
the game was
exactly.
bad, I don't know that they would have done it. You know, which there
I
was
mean, we got a
big
Battlefront
chance.
2, Tim.
Yeah,
Just
I
saying.
mean, that's like
But
I mean,
Battlefront wasn't bad. Battlefront was
was it
good. We were all
good?
like,
I
we
don't
want
know.
more.
it was called The Force Unleashed. That didn't mean we were getting.
Is there an end game aspect to this game?
And collecting and going through. I mean, that's what I'm doing. There's more chests to get and more secrets to see, and you know, I'm going through and finding areas I didn't have before. But
So my thing is, it seems
Sounds
like
like
it's,
no end game. other
yeah,
than
it's not
collect.
really like a.
It's not-
it is
no,
just
it's not
go back
like,
to
That's why we
collect.
want New Game Plus.
However, Barrett was telling me about some stuff.
There's a, and again, I don't know, should I say exactly what I told you without spoiling story
No,
aspects? There is a frustrating story aspect that you and I were talking about. Once the campaign is over with,
Yeah.
and there's like a little blip on the screen of like, what's the
Yeah,
situation now? There's like a frustrating situation there. I wish that they had gone a
that's
different
that's back
route
to me
with
and
that.
Fran being like, that's just how old video games are.
I know, but we're in a game of like, again, to give as little context as I can without spoiling it, we're
Don't do
in
it.
an era past Zelda Breath of the Wild, and they handled that differently, you know, and that's where I wish that they handled that the same. So
I think this is a conversation, honestly, I think you can say this without spoiling it, if you don't mind. Really, I
have
don't.
no
If
idea
this
what you're
isn't a big
talking
deal.
about, so I don't know.
When you beat the game drops you. It drops you back into the game when you hit continue, and it's like, cool, congratulations on beating the game. The thing you just did to end the game, you can't do again. We've set you back before the events of that.
Yeah, so you can go collect all your stuff. That doesn't
but
feel like a spoiler.
what you want is Zelda Breath of the Wild, where it's like, hey, cool, you've cleaned up the kingdom, and now you're running around, and like, here's new
if you
dialogue,
wanna-
and here's new
but
stuff.
if you
and
want to
this-
go back to the end of the game, you can, and that's the frustrating
Stranding
thing
did
where
the
it's
same
like, the frustrating thing for
Well, no,
the
it's
game for me
2 weeks
is
after
they
the
tell
movie.
you, oh, you're set
before the events at the end of the game, but you can't go back to it. I'd rather just tell them, all right, you beat the game, now go collect everything. Don't word it that way. It was just like a weird wording where I was like,
Yeah, weird
well, now I
specific.
want to like go and do everything and specifically only play the end with all these collectibles and all these like more power-ups and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is.
It's just like the way
That's
they
not what I
worded
was
it.
hinting at earlier.
Okay,
Like
sorry.
there's experiences and kind of scenarios that
the cool stuff.
There's cool stuff
Yes.
that you've been facing that is like I would call endgame because it's like it is going back to places and having different
Yeah, you
experiences
haven't
pop
opened them up.
that
or-
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
see at all.
There's a
or I
certain
saw
enemy
way
type
less than you did.
that I think might be time based of how often you run into them. Where I've like backtracked to a couple of like the very first planet and a little bit of the second planet, and I've run into this certain enemy type like several times where you've only run into them like once or twice.
Twice, yeah.
Yeah, and so like that's a really cool aspect.
Write it
for
on your thing. Let me see.
It's a thing that reminds me a lot of Taskmaster in Spider-Man.
Okay.
I
think I know what you're talking about,
was
but I
dubbing
saw them
them
before the end of the game.
I was dubbing them
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
mini bosses, and
Oh.
I just feel like those encounters
But like,
were
how many
weird.
have you encountered?
I mean, I popped the trophy. I've done them all.
I
Well,
don't
no,
know.
so
It's just-
you-
I
you-
have
you-
no
you-
idea what
You
you're
popped
talking
the
about.
trophy of facing every type. You haven't popped the like there isn't a trophy of facing more of them because I popped the trophy of facing each type, but
Gotcha.
then there were more of them that I still.
Oh yeah,
faced
they
afterwards.
still keep coming at me. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
whatever.
See, but that's my thing is I've only had 2.
Y'all suck. I'm awesome.
Mic drop.
No, not you.
Oh, okay.
When I'm fighting these things, I'm like, y'all
okay.
suck. I'm
But
awesome.
I do
Well,
like
maybe
that
both.
we had different experiences with the
Yeah,
game.
it's
Like
really
it's
cool.
cool that there are things that kind of feel like it's living a bit more than
Sure.
you'd expect.
But there's no end game really.
No.
I mean,
No.
you can
Not
go.
really.
You're more
collect
exploring,
all
more
the stuff,
collecting, do all
and
that
there's no
stuff.
new game plus.
Correct.
And it sounds like out of
Hopefully
both of
it'll
those,
be
we
added.
want a new game plus more than anything. It
And the
sounds
last observation I want to make is the title screen. Does it remind you guys exactly of Halo 2? The music sounds the
Yeah.
same. It's the ship just
I do
there.
see that.
The
Sure.
color
I see that,
scheme and
actually.
everything.
Yeah,
and all-
sure.
Every
I see
time we
that.
move the game up, I'm like, yeah, let's
I see that.
go.
There you go. Yet another inspiration that has
There
made
we
its
go.
way into the game in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a bad thing, but it's spot on.
Metacritic guesses. Greg Miller.
God, that's a tough one. That's a really, really tough one because I feel like
I have a number in mind.
you
already.
fall
already
into
have my
such an
number in
interesting
mind.
point where I if I was objectively reviewing it, even though I love it so much, how many points do I dock it for all the trouble we've run into? You know what I mean?
You know what we should do from that? We should scribble on like our phone and then reveal it.
Yeah,
All at
honestly.
once.
I mean, I feel if anyone has a number, you can call it. Whoever says it first
86.
gets that number.
84.
Hold on.
I'm gonna say 81. BB 81.
Outs. Now you get see. This is why because now I second guess my.
Don't,
just go.
just go.
First instinct was
Just think of it.
89. Actually, believe it
Okay.
or not. That's the overall. There's a lot of Star Wars fans out
You
there.
got me, Sim?
Did you get me?
Yeah, I got 81. I got 89.
Again, we're
I got-
playing
No,
Price
I'm
is Right.
89.
remember.
Sorry. Yeah.
Price is
89,
Right.
86, 84.
Closest without going over.
Kev?
Price is Right.
Nobody's going with 66.
Yes, you can't
No.
say no.
It's
That's
not
how we did
Price-
it last time.
No.
That's how we did it this time.
Price is Right.
As your fucking boss.
Andy
I
knows,
was
man.
gonna say 84, but someone's already got that. So
These
we'll put it
boomers,
at
you know what I mean,
88.
Andy?
Yeah.
88.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What is up with the prices
What
for
about
those?
you, Tim?
I don't understand.
It makes it
I would
strategic.
probably
No, it's stupid.
see because the thing is like
suck.
to try to win or whatever, I'd go low just to like be under that. I don't think it's gonna get lower than 81.
Price is Right rules are such gotcha nonsense. They're for game shows. They're not for like actually
Is
guessing.
this a show
85.
about games?
Don't ruin this, Fran.
Make the madness stop.
you
If
gotta
it's a
guess?
90 and I guess 89, boom, you win.
Cutting
That's
his
it.
mic.
Thank you, Kevin.
What's
Thank you for being
Ash's
the voice
guess?
of reason.
I'm kind of in line with you, Greg. I'm thinking like 81, 82. I think it's now,
He's
of
gonna go
course,
82.
again, based
81.5,
on
you heard
a
the
few hours, but I'm thinking 81, 82.
It's just it's
Yeah.
that thing where I do think we're all high on it and we all love it, but being at IGN is such a different story. Because to go back to if I can have the floor for 1 second, my fellow Jedi,
Nope.
it's the idea, right, of like I adore this game. This is the most fun I think I've had playing games this year. That obviously should make it pretty high on my Game of the Year rankings, if not my Game of the Year. And it might be, and it probably would be. But it so takes me back to the argument in the room at IGN between Journey and The Walking Dead, where it was, hey, what are you shaking your head at?
Yeah, that was a nod.
Kevin's
for
in the
both.
doc that I'm looking at my run of show.
Yeah.
And in like 150 font, he just wrote "you a bitch."
Got it.
All right, Kevin, you got him.
Kevin's really
I was like,
tired
this
today.
better be good, and it was great. It's like- no, it goes back to the IGN room of like I remember the office arguing between Journey and The Walking Dead, and I was like, hey, Walking Dead, I adore. I think that game was awesome. Blah blah. I don't think we can put it as Game of the Year because of all the technical hurdles it had. And I think Walking Dead had more problems than Jedi does, but it was that argument of like, how do you define Game of the Year and how do you vote for Game of the Year kind of thing? And I think when you're trying to be a critic and you're trying to write a review and you're trying to take it all in, like how much do the hype moments and the great story and the cool stuff outweigh? And not to mention for us bringing in this, the amount of people who are going to play this game and review it in Metacritic Authority, maybe they are Star Wars fans, they were never Dark Souls fans. That the idea of pairing and not being able to Force Unleashed it is going to be there. I think there's a
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the difficulty mode though, like when you go
Sure,
to easy,
great point.
it kind of turns it into Force Unleashed.
Sure. Don't get me wrong. I hope it gets 9s. I hope it does all this stuff. I think, that there's clear problems with it, but I fucking love this game and it's probably going to be my game of the year.
I think this is like the Spider-Man of this year, where
Ooh.
but I don't think it's close to being as good as Spider-Man. Like I just thought
Interesting.
Spider-Man was so much of a better game.
That's an interesting conversation.
And I'm with
86
that
though,
because
yes.
one of the things I loved about Spider-Man so much was it was such a good, unique Spider-Man story, and I feel like this is such a good Star Wars story.
But I don't think anything in Jedi Fallen Order felt as good as like swinging
Get your
Spider-Man.
drunk ass out of here, Barrett.
Go away, Barry.
Go watch
He's
G-Force.
he's making a scary face.
I'm just saying.
Kevin, get there.
He's not
Spider-Man
making a
was my
scary
top
face.
3
He's
games
got a
of-
white claw shoved in his armpit. He's got his
Alyssa,
phone
who is
out.
sick. I'm doing a lot of things. I'm getting drunk. I'm talking about Star Wars. I'm texting Alyssa.
This is like his favorite day ever. He's super excited.
He didn't like Spider-Man's story.
No, I did, but I think it was a basic Spider-Man story. You know what I'm saying? I didn't think it did a.
Get the fuck
Get
out.
the
This isn't
fuck
about
when it came to,
Spider-Man,
when it came to
everybody.
character development, it was great. But I think like beat for beat, what?
See Doc Ock a lot.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Can I get
it's
a
a very
gavel?
basic.
When it comes to
beat
Star
for
Wars,
beat,
though,
Spider-Man
one thing I
story.
wanted to say is there was a moment when I was playing and Gia watched me play a little bit, and she rarely does this, but she was like watching it and she goes, "Holy shit!" Like things happened that she was like, "This is fucking cool," and it's not like one of the major moments. It was just like little Star Wars things they do that you're like, "Wow, they really, really nailed this."
Yeah, it is. It's worth like spelling out. We never quite said it. This game is packed with blockbuster, epic like moments. And like we reference all the games that do that, but I don't know if we clearly said this game constantly is doing these amazing camera shots, really cool moments that surprise you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Really quick, Spider-Man had a fantastic story, and I will hear no lies.
Thank you, Ash.
All right.
We got Ash Paulsen from GameXplain. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, everybody here on the panel for this episode. And thank you, audience, for watching along. And I hope you enjoy Star Wars Jedi.
can't wait to hear what you all think.
Yeah, let's do it. Until next week. Love you.
The highest compliment I had
May the
for bye.
force be with you.
Which is?
Too late, we're cut.
We haven't cut. I'll bring the lights back up.
Highest compliment I can say is that I woke up this morning and I was texting with Anthony Carboni about something else, and then I was also like, I think I'm falling in love with Star Wars.
I love it.
And it's
Let's
definitely
fucking go, baby.
It's a huge part of this. Like I can't when beating this game and playing more of this game. Like I'm like, fuck, I have to go back to Disneyland and make another lightsaber because I need to make the closest version of my lightsaber.
If they,
Clone Wars, you coward!
if
I
they
will.
let- if they
There's a
let
whole thing
me-
on the subreddit of how to do it.
I want
It
Cal.
looks like a goddamn
Cal
puzzle.
lightsaber.